Thanks for taking time out of your lives to come here tonight. We really appreciate it. It is nice weather, so, that's a positive. I'm going to call to order the March 25th, 2019 Royal Oak City Commission meeting to order. We're going to begin with an invocation given by Commissioner Gibbs, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you can.
We gather here this evening to recognize the greatness of our city and make nonpartisan decisions to grow the businesses, community, and living situation of our residents. We thank the police, fire, and EMS. We thank the volunteers. We thank the residents that work with passion towards the betterment of our city. Amen.
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 I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, is Mary Karshner here tonight? Yes. There she is. All right. Believe it or not, we have a proclamation for Mary Karshner. I know everyone believes that because she has absolutely been the most amazing library director I think we've had in Royal Oak in a long time, and certainly has done an amazing job in the past 10 years. Mary, come on up here. We're going to embarrass you one more time.
Hi, use me.
It's so good to see you, Mary. Yeah, come on up here. Okay. So we have a proclamation that we wrote here, and this doesn't even begin to do justice to recognize Mary for her contributions to this city, the work that she's done as library director, making our library one of the best libraries, I believe, in the region. I think most of us agree in this region. It's a place where we've raised our children. She's helped shape them. She's provided resources for people of all backgrounds, ages, and she's just done a fantastic job. And we're really, really sad. We're really happy for Mary. She's moving on to the next part of her life, and look at that smile that's there. And everyone deserves, especially when you work as hard as Mary and you have such great results, you deserve time to yourself. But so it's bittersweet. But we'd be remiss if we didn't read a proclamation here honoring the work of such a dedicated public servant. This is a proclamation honoring Mary Karshner. Whereas Mary Karshner served the residents of Royal Oak and visitors to the Royal Oak Public Library with extraordinary ability. And whereas Mary began her career in 2004 as a librarian and was appointed interim director in 2009, and then finally became the city's library director in March of 2010. And whereas during Mary's tenure as director, the library has increased the number, variety, and quality of programs offered. And whereas her tenure has seen the ushering in of technical advancements and networking with libraries throughout the region. And whereas attendance at the Royal Oak Public Library is at an all-time high, even with the interruption of construction occurring because of Mary's innovative and positive approach. And whereas anyone who has the opportunity to meet and speak with Mary will be a better educated and happier person after meeting, and the city of Royal Oak has been blessed to have Mary at the helm of one of the community's greatest assets. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Mayor Fournier, and the members of the Royal Oak City Commission hereby honor and pay a small part of great debt we owe to Mary Karshner for her exceptional and visionary leadership of the Royal Oak Public Library. Mary? And I have to tell you, I used to be a member of the library board, and I joined right after the Great Recession. And municipalities, libraries, cities were all facing fiscal catastrophe. I tried to make it one word. Fiscal catastrophe. And I got to tell you, watching Mary do her job, make her recommendations, run the library in a way that kept services high, responsible to every single employee of the library, and keeping it afloat, I think, is a great testament not only to her character, but to her acumen and her leadership. She is a shining example of a public servant, and we couldn't be happier to have had you for all the years we did, Mary. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I feel many times honored, and I know it sounds cliched, but it has been truly a privilege and a real honor to have been library director and also to live in Royal Oak. And if you don't use the library, look into it. There are so many resources now than when the library was 20 years ago or whatever. The electronic resources, you don't have to come down to the library once you have your library card, and you can access just a world of not only information but entertainment. We have some wonderful programs going on. I encourage everybody to use the library, and thank you again.
Thank you, Mary. And happy retirement. And we have two more proclamations. So we have a proclamation tonight, the second one, designating April as Autism Awareness Month. Is Frankie here? Hi, Frankie, come on out. And Brad? How are you doing today? Thank you for making it out tonight. So I'm going to begin by reading the proclamation. This is a proclamation designating April 2019 as Autism Awareness Month in Royal Oak. Whereas, autism is a pervasive developmental disorder affecting the social, communication, and behavioral skill of those affected by it. And whereas, as more health professionals become proficient in diagnosing autism, more children are being diagnosed on the autism spectrum, resulting in rates as high as 1 in 59 children nationally and over 50,000 individuals in Michigan alone. And whereas, while there is no cure for autism, it is well documented that if individuals with autism receive treatment early in their lives, it often is possible for those individuals to lead significantly improved lives. And whereas individuals with autism often require a lifetime of specialized and community support services to ensure their health and safety and to support families' resilience as they manage the psychological and financial burdens autism presents. And whereas, to raise awareness, the Judson Center spearheaded a campaign to educate parents, professionals, and the general public about autism by providing blue light bulbs to property owners to show their support. And whereas the City of Royal Oak partnered for a third year in a row with the Judson Center in their efforts in lit city buildings and became the distribution center for blue light bulbs. And whereas this year the partnership is continuing with the city buildings being lit, a banner hung on Main Street. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Mayor Fournier, and the members of the Royal Oak City Commission, in partnership with the Judson Center, proclaim April 2019 as National Autism Awareness Month in the City of Royal Oak, and urge all employees, residents, and members of business community to bring autism to light and raise awareness during National Autism Awareness Month. Frankie and Brad. I just want to say I've had the blessings and privilege to actually go and visit with the Judson Center, and they do an exceptional job, and they're an exceptional asset in our community, and we're so proud to partner with the Judson Center and make Royal Oak not just designate that April is Autism Awareness Month, but continue to find ways to bring awareness, and we love our Blue campaign, and we love working with the Judson Center, and thank you. A few words?
We really want to thank you and the City of Royal Oak for the continued partnership to bring autism to light now that it's in its third year. And we really value the support we've been given to reach out to the community to be able to bring awareness and understanding and advocacy for individuals with autism and their families. At the Judson Center, we do provide comprehensive services for individuals and their families as young as 18 months and through adulthood as they seek out employment.
I would just add to what Frankie has said, the thanks for you guys taking the time to bring this to light, pun intended, I guess. And just thank you to bring awareness to this area of disability. And because we know with the awareness comes then inclusion in the community. Frankie's programming deals a lot with the younger ones as they're kind of coming through, getting the therapies, becoming more interpersonally capable and interactive and the like. And then there's a handoff, and I'm in that adult area where we then take and begin to work with them to find their employment, their inclusion in this community. And I'm happy to say there's 2 Royal Oak businesses that have included folks that we've been serving and supporting as members and their workforce in this community. So we thank you for bringing that awareness that brings inclusion.
Very good. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frankie. I forgot to mention I wore a blue tie. All right. This is our 3rd proclamation for this evening and our final one, a proclamation honoring the outgoing Royal Oak Opportunity to Serve, otherwise known as Roots, board members. For those of you who aren't familiar with Roots, they are a powerhouse organization made up of community volunteers, volunteers from other committees that look and steward investment in the community where it's needed. They've done an amazing job. We have some things that we're doing here tonight that are going to move in a little bit of a different, more positive direction and kind of take roots and look at this philanthropic opportunity and bring it to the next level. But we've had a tremendous, over the years, support from the Roots members taking time out of their personal lives to make this community what it is, and they do an exceptional job, and we thought it appropriate to honor and designate those individuals here tonight. I know Commissioner Douglas is the, Mayor Pro Tem Douglas is the serving commissioner on the Roots Board, and I want her to say a few words before we read the proclamations.
It was so generous of the people who served on the Roots Board because their real passions were for historic preservation or the animal shelter or the library, but this imposed an additional meeting on them every month, and they came together to oversee the funds that they had collected that the city is a steward of, serves as their fiduciary. So we appreciate the time they took in serving on the Roots Committee, and I'm pretty sure that most of them are still involved on the committees that brought them to Roots in the first place: the Animal Shelter, Nature Society, Library, Historical Commission, and the Parks, Recs, and Seniors programs. And those organizations make Royal Oak an infinitely better place, and we thank them for their continuing involvement in those organizations.
So I know we have a few members here tonight. I see Tom again. You want to come on up? Helen? And I think Eileen's here too? Yeah, Eileen's here too. Oh, and Mitzi's here.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Mitzi, we didn't know you were coming. You will get one.
It was the camouflage pants. We didn't see you, Mitzi. Well, let me first read the proclamation here. So this is a proclamation honoring the outgoing Royal Oak Opportunity to Serve Foundation board members. Whereas the Royal Oak Opportunity to Serve Foundation encourage philanthropy to strengthen the spirit and community to enrich the quality of life in Royal Oak now and in the future. And whereas to support the community by making every effort to ensure all city entities were appropriately funded, Roots Foundation board members work diligently to create effective and rewarding ways for donors to give back. And whereas residents who felt passionately about city services could help perpetuate them by making donations or gifts through the foundation. And whereas many of the city's entities benefited from the Roots Foundation, encouraged philanthropy, I always struggle with that word, including the Animal Shelter, Public Library, and the Orson Star House Museum. And whereas to acknowledge the outgoing Royal Oak Opportunity to Serve Foundation board members for their generous volunteer service. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Mayor Fournier, and the members of the Royal Oak City Commission, on behalf of the entire community, hereby express our gratitude to the outgoing Royal Oak Opportunity to Serve Foundation members for their countless hours of selfless service. Thank you.
Bravo.
Seriously, your efforts have made
Nature
major difference.
The Nature Society was glad to participate.
Mr. McGann, it's good to see you. Thank you. Mitzi, we do have something for you. We do have an extra proclamation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any words from the outgoing board members?
Well, I just hope that.
To the microphone.
Oh, pardon me. Eileen Krupa from the Royal Oak Animal Shelter, and I'd like to thank Tom and the committee because we got a grant for microchipping, and it really helped out with the animals. And I hope that the new foundation will do even a better job than the Roots. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm very happy to have been involved in this, and we did work. I'm representing the Nature Society, and we have done quite a lot. We put up paths, trails in the woods. You know that we're involved with Tenhave Woods and Cummingston Woods. The Nature Society takes care of all of that, and we have made trails. Now we're working on a cement trail for the Arboretum, which is new, and that cement trail is going to be for handicapped people to enjoy the woods. So hopefully the new ROCF, Royal Oak Civic Foundation, will have a 501c3 capacity, and we'll be able to get enough money to put a good trail in the Arboretum too. Thanks.
Thank you for recognizing these folks tonight, to think about the extra effort that they were already involved in groups that they were impassioned by, that Shard mentioned, and to come together and discuss other opportunities and look at how we could make Roots a long-serving organization by ordinance for the city, but turn it into something relevant that would actually raise money and grant that money quickly to organizations. We're excited to have the finale of, I think it's more than 3 to 4 years worth of work happen this evening. These folks went to special seminars on their own time to research what it looks like to be a 501c3. Did a lot of concepting as a group as well, so that we could turn over a skeleton of the organization to the city attorneys to look at and say, all right, how do we make the 2.0 version of this helpful to the city of Royal Oak? So for all of your vision, all of the thoughts, and the fun conversations we had once a month for a number of years, thank you for helping to advance us to this location.
Once again, thank you. I mean, just another example of how, you know, this community, the quality of life we enjoy, the standard of living we enjoy is really at the base of it, you know, volunteerism. So we can't thank you enough for your years of service, and we're excited about all the good things that are to come. So thank you so much for your hard work and dedication.
Thank you.
All right, this brings us to item number 7, public comment. Just a few ground rules for public comment. The City Commission values and relies on the input of our fellow citizens to make decisions. Now is the time set aside for the public to address the City Commission on any city-related issues, both on the agenda or not. I ask that comments be directed to the City Commission and not to individual commissioners. In addition to public comment this evening, the city invites public input on the application for Recreational Passport Grant Program. If you're here to offer the comment on the Recreational Passport Grant Program, you may wait until the agenda item is called, and you can comment at that time. If you're here to wish to speak tonight, either a public comment or regarding the Recreational Passport Grant Program, please wait until recognized by me, the mayor. Come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. And please be mindful that the City Commission wants to hear from everyone who wishes to speak. So comments are limited to 3 minutes or less, and there's a timer at the podium to help you keep track of your allotted time. If you don't wish to speak tonight, that's all right. Feel free to reach out to any one of us via email, telephone, etc. Please note that the City Commission will not respond directly to questions during public comment. However, we are taking notes and will address those questions when the agenda topic is discussed, or refer to the proper city department if the matter isn't scheduled to be discussed on the agenda tonight. Our city manager is also doing the same. So with that, who wishes to speak tonight first? Mr. McGannon.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commission, as well. Good job on pronouncing philanthropy. It took me a couple years to pronounce that myself, and I work in that profession. I'm Tom McGannon, 311 South Gainsborough Avenue, nearly 20-year-long Royal Oak resident. And I've had the privilege of being involved with the city through formerly the Acorn Foundation, renamed Roots a few years back. And tonight, later in your business, you'll be repealing the original ordinance that started the organization, and you'll be considering and launching forward the new Royal Oak Civic Foundation, which is a group that we've, over the last 4 years, been reconcepting what we could do to be relevant to the city of Royal Oak. So that means regular philanthropic, see, it's a tough one, but regular philanthropic appeals, and looking at what our city is and what needs will come forward that we can help support, and specifically what resources we can pull not only from our own community, but from the metro area as well. I do want to commend Don Johnson and his staff for helping us to organize the Roots, former Roots, new Civic Foundation over the last 2 years. So we've given them the framework of what they could research and figure out for our articles of incorporation and bylaws. And they very wisely connected with folks in the community that were appropriate for that time frame in development. So our initial committee members, they've selected folks who have been involved with nonprofit organizations or involved in developing governance structures for nonprofits and other organizations as well. So the group that's been both a cross-section of former Roots members and some members of the community have really been able to focus on what the group needs at this time to get started. So after you repeal tonight's ordinance and launch us forward with our new bylaws, we'll soon be looking for new community members who will help us with our next steps, which include fundraising. We need people who will bring resources to the table when there's an issue that is identified that will help us solve it immediately so that we can continue to move things forward for the great city we all live in. So I will look forward to hearing your approval of the motion, both to sunset the original Roots group and to launch forward our 2.0 version in the Royal Oak Civic Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGinn. Mr. Rapinski next.
Mike Rapinski, 3152 Parker, Royal Oak. Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, City staff. This is an exciting night. On the agenda are some items that are near and dear to me. As many of you know, the time we put in, some of us together over the last 5 years or so. It's exciting to see that we're finally at the point that we are going to award the contract for the start of Normandy Oaks Park. And it just, let's start the shovels going and the construction crews in there, and let's get our park built. We've had to overcome a lot of hurdles, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge those from city staff and the city commission who were involved, especially Commissioner DeBach, who was instrumental in bringing some extra money from the county, which has not always been an easy thing to do. We send a lot more money up to the county than we get back, as we know, and this is for a change. They're going to invest some money here in our city, and it's a win-win situation. We're not giving up control. We're just doing the right thing. Also on the agenda for tonight is a couple of things with the golf course. And as part of our whole Normandy Oaks project that we were involved in over the years, some of the money we received from the sale of the land to Robertson Brothers was to be earmarked to improve the Royal Oak Golf Course. And folks, as a golfer, tell me it's really, really needed. And a couple of the things on there I just want to mention quickly. First of all, on the parking lot paving and the cart paths. Looking at the scope of work, which I just got this morning, to look at some of the detail on that, it looks like we're pretty good shape. I do have a concern that we're not doing enough paving in and around the clubhouse patio area, the apron to entrance there in the first tee. And the actual cart paths are only scheduled to be installed around 7 of the 9 holes. The actual paving around the greens and tees, and it doesn't say which holes are being excluded there. So I'd like to know some point in time what's being excluded. Also, on the agenda is a contract for netting. And I'm trying to wrap this up real quick. It gives you the option to, like, make no decision on adding netting for holes 4 and 5 at the golf course. It's not needed there. We need netting, but not on holes 4 and 5. And there's a survey that was attached to that from the residents of the building behind hole number 4 who would be protected by the netting. And they were 3 to 1 against having the netting. So I don't understand why we would even propose that. We do need extra netting next to hole number 1 and hole number 3. Believe me, I've sent a lot of golf balls over the railroad tracks over there. So if you can put the netting there, spend some money on netting, but don't do it on holes 4 and 5. It's not needed there. We need it on 1. Believe me, the homeowners along hole number 1 will appreciate having a net to protect those golf balls from hitting their houses, garages, and sheds. So if you do anything tonight, just don't make a decision or don't vote to approve the netting as it's written. Maybe do some more due diligence and decide to put it in some other locations. Thank you all so much, and we appreciate having some improvements on the golf course and having a terrific park pretty soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rapinski. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, and City officials. My name is Linda Lupi, and I reside at 4015 Arbor in Royal Oak, 48073. Unfortunately, I'm back. Since my last visit, I have heard from 6 commissioners and met with 2 who have toured the house at 4303 North Verona Circle. I have a meeting this week with a 3rd commissioner. I have presented 2 plans to you and to city officials on a possible path forward to force resolution of this neighborhood nightmare. I've received no feedback from the city officials on either proposal. I did receive responses from most of the city commissioners, and I appreciate that. Thank you. So here are my 3 questions. I have cited 4 different sections of the condemnation code that are provable. It takes only 1 violation to begin condemnation proceedings. Where does this request stand? Number 2, I have asked the city and/or the city/county health department if either has requested in writing permission to inspect the interior of this house due to potential health considerations. Again, I have received no response. Why is the city not citing this house as a public nuisance, which follows this owner and any subsequent owners? I have received no answer. At the very least, as a tax-paying resident of Royal Oak, I think I'm deserving of some answers. I have been polite but firm in all of my correspondence to all city officials. Why am I not receiving answers to these 3 specific questions? Please realize that I'm putting the same pressure on the owner and the broker of this property. Last week, I visited each of their businesses and relayed to the listing agent and the owner's administrative assistant my concerns regarding this property. I received a phone call from Mr. Moser, who is the realtor broker, on Friday of last week. I received an email from Mr. Spielman, who is the owner of the property, on Friday evening last week. This is progress, as neither has ever acknowledged any communication that I'd previously sent to them. And believe me, I got a folder like this. Finally, I'm asking the City Commission to vote to put this discussion of this blighted house on the Commission agenda for an April meeting. Our neighborhood deserves to hear this discussion. There are many plans of action that could be raised, such as increasing existing code fines for repeat offenders, addressing long-time vacant, unkept houses in the city, contacting neighboring communities to see how they handle similar situations, establishing a process that not only my neighborhood could use to deal with blight, but would also then be available to other Royal Oak citizens dealing with blighted houses in their neighborhoods, and I could be a resource. I'm sure with some brainstorming, additional plans of action could be forthcoming. So again, I thank those commissioners who emailed me or visited the slum house, and I again ask the commissioners to support placing this item on the April agenda. A unanimous vote to support our neighborhood would be an amazing show of support, understanding, and compassion for our neighbors' 11 years of dealing with this prominent eyesore. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lupi. Who's next? Mr. Wayron.
if I had a complaint, it would be no answer as well. But I'm here to talk about and support monarch butterflies. Emails to commissioners. I talked to a guy named Bob at the farmer's market. I sent an email to the Nature Society, and just don't get anything. Now, I talked to you personally at the goals session, the third goals session, and all I got was a puzzled look from the mayor. I'm sure you're familiar with the flight of the monarch butterfly. When I was 6, you saw them every day. Now you're lucky if you see them once a year, maybe. So how many people here have seen a monarch butterfly lately? Good.
Not this year yet.
Yeah. Well, you have an opportunity tonight with the Normandy Oaks Park renovation to help them monumentally. And that's by giving them the feed they need, which is milkweed. There's 100 kinds of milkweed in the United States, 30 of which are native to Michigan. They also will grow some will grow in sun, some will grow in water. So, I mean, the park is going to have all of these conditions. What I'm suggesting is that you plant beds of milkweed along the fences. There's 2 fences that have houses on one side, and there's the fence, and you could put 15 to 20 feet of milkweed in there, and they would, it would grow. It takes a few months to establish them, and then there really is not much work to them. You just have to cut them back once in a while because they are kind of an aggressive plant. And I think that this would be something that could be done for the butterflies and for our appreciation of our city. A building on Main Street has put a plat of them on the roof, but the one you should be thinking about is Macomb County. I think it was a freeway. They put 2 miles of milkweed along one of their freeways. And you could do the same thing. It's a boast. You can boast that we are helping the monarchs. And is anybody here from Oakland County?
I think we're all from Oakland County.
But I mean from the Oakland County that's contributing money. Well, anyway, you can talk to them about it. See, that's my problem. I can't get anybody to talk about it. It's just something that somebody else should worry about, not us. Well, we live here, and we have a little butterfly garden at the library, but other than that, we don't have much. And it doesn't take a lot of work to do this. So what I'm suggesting is that along those fences, there's 2 streets, essentially makes a right angle. And put in, like I said, 20 to 30, 15 to 20 foot beds. That would be a fair ways toward an acre that people could use. See, and I see you nodding, so it means you must be thinking about it. Is that the first time you've done it? I don't know. Anyway, the Free Press had this wonderful article.
Thank you, Mr. Wayburn.
And I think you should all read it. In fact, I'm going to insist you read it. And I'm going to insist that you talk with the designer of the park. And one of the things tonight is the plant design, I understand. So you can ask them about that then.
Mr. Wayburn, I do need you to finish up your last thought, sir.
Well,
do you want to pass that to us, or do you want to
yeah,
hold on to
I'm
that?
going to give it to you and ask that copies go to you,
Yeah.
to Greg Rassel, because he would have to actually do the cutting. And that's about all you got to do is cut them down once in a while.
Yep.
The park designer, Oakland County, and anybody else you can think of. Oh, the Nature Society. Anybody else you can think of, because it's a good, not very expensive way to do it, and it's even something you can get grants for with your new roots.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wayburn.
So, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I want to get my paper copies.
Good evening. My name is Gary Jordan. This is my wife, Cheryl Jordan. Good evening to the mayor, staff, city commissioners. We're recent transplants here to the city of Royal Oak from Ohio, and our address is 3401 North Devon. We just moved in, and we're having a problem with the water department there. My wife scheduled, she called the water department on the 1st of March so that they can read the meter to give us a final bill so that we can pay that and start our service, and they can install a new meter to start the new service. And so they scheduled from the office of, my wife wrote the notes, Jane Marie, scheduled for them to come out and between hours of 8 and 10 on March 1st to come out and so they can read the meter. We live in a duplex. It's a side-by-side duplex. And so the meter reader did not show up that day. We left at about 11:30. I thoroughly checked the basement to make sure that there was, to see where the meter was. There's no meter in there. So my wife called back down there, and she got a rude customer service rep down there that was really rude to her and insisted that we had a meter there. So she was scheduled to have another meter reader come out. He came out this past Saturday. He showed up on time. He went next door. And I was watching him, and he was there for a while knocking on the door. They didn't answer. So I went outside and to retrieve him and to tell him that we were the one that called for the reading. And he came over, and he said he actually had an appointment with the next door neighbors too because he had to replace their meter. I don't know how long they've been there. They were there when we moved there. But nevertheless, he came in our basement. He couldn't find the meter, and he discovered that the meter, both the meters, are in the unit next door. So we don't have a meter. But they charged us a no-show fee for when they said they came out, but they didn't come out. Because I assumed that the meter would be outside, but of course it's not. So I don't know what recourse we have in this situation because I don't know even how to start the service if the meter's next door and they don't answer the door over there. So.
Well, Mr. Jordan, I appreciate you coming here to public comment. Mrs. Jordan, welcome to Royal Oak first off. We're glad to have you. If you could do us a favor, if you could write down your contact information and provide it to our city clerk, we'll make sure our city manager looks into it and can kind of understand a little bit more about what happened. I apologize you had a dissatisfied service with our water department. We strive. I know everybody in the city works hard to make sure that we work well with our residents. Doesn't mean we hit 100% all the time, but certainly if you can leave that with us, we'll take a look at it from here. You took the time to come out here tonight and explain your situation. We'll take the time to get back to you, sir.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Is that Joe Spatafor?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, staff. Joe Spatafor. I'll give you my home address, 1392 Rossdale, Waterford, Michigan. I am the Director of Golf Operations at Royal Oak Golf Course, and I'm also the one of the owners of the golf company that run the golf course for the last 12 years now. Public speaking is not my specialty, so I guarantee you this will not be anywhere near 3 minutes. First of all, thank you for moving forward with the improvements to the Royal Oak Golf Course. Greatly appreciated, greatly needed. I'm here mostly to talk to you tonight about the netting issue that you're concerned about. You're opening up a can of worms if you decide to do this on 4 and 5. Been there 12 years. I know the golf course inside and out, and I get a handful. We probably had about 12. I personally get 12 to 15 calls in the 12 years on those 2 holes. 95% of the golf balls behind that hole go through the net, not over the fencing, not over the net. Let's rephrase that again. Through the fence, there is no netting there. If we put some mesh in the netting or into the fence area, that will help it out tremendously. Or maybe even arborvitaes, or even put up the fence a little higher. That is the problem there. On 5, we do have netting in place already. The problem that we have there is that in the past 3 years, we've been working with the complex. We've taken out 10 probably 10 to 12 trees. And taking out those trees, it's thinned it out, so now there are golf balls that do go over into that area. When talking with the management company over there, we agreed to take out the trees and explain to them by removing these trees, you're opening up this area a little bit more. Their comments were they were more worried about the leaves in the pool than golf balls in the pool. So we moved forward and we removed the trees for them. If you do those two holes, I guarantee you, your phones are going to be ringing off the hook to put fencing along or netting along 1 and 2. You're talking 600-700 yards. You're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you're going to do it for one, you've got to do it for everybody. I mean, how can you explain, well, we're going to do it for you guys and not you guys? That's the issue that you're running into. So I think trying to solve the problem by fixing what is there now without spending all that money would be just more beneficial to you guys than putting that money elsewhere. So I just kind of, like to say to you, my door is always open to you guys. I would love to see you people out there. Give me an hour's notice. I'd love to take you on the golf course if you have any concerns. If you want to play golf, I'm always there. Come on out. We need to have you out there more to see what kind of things are going on out there. And not just you folks, past staff and past commissioners, you know, I don't see a lot of you, and I'd love to have you out there. So I'm giving you that warm, doesn't sound too warm, but invitation to come out anytime. Just give me an hour's notice, and I'll be there to show you around. If you want to play golf, it gives me an excuse to get out and play golf, and I'd love to have you. But those are some of the things that you need to look into, because I get hundreds of calls, and look, I did do 3 minutes, I lied, I'm sorry. Hundreds of calls on 1 and 2, and every day we get calls over there. So just be careful. If you do one thing, you know you're going to have to do it for the others. Have a great night. Thank you again for the improvements. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. Be careful what you ask for. Inviting some of us out there may perpetuate a problem of errand balls. Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm Alex Williams. I'm representing Mitcham Chapel AME Church, 4207 West 14 Mile. A couple of things tonight that I wanted to bring to our attention. The first is that our peanut butter and jelly drive is still going on through early May. I do have a collection box, and we're working on where we can put that. So ideally, I'd like to put one in this building and some other places around the city as deemed appropriate. But as of today, we have over 800 jars of peanut butter and jelly, which put us over. I think we were the greatest donor last year with about that same amount. So, and we've still got another month to go. So I really hope that we can collect some more. And with a collection box in this building, I think that'll help a lot. So hopefully we can get that approval. Secondly, I think every other meeting I've been to, Mr. Ashley has been here, and today he's not. But so I've been coming here for about a year, a little over that. And over that time, we've heard Royal Oak Manor folks concerned about their parking situation and the increase that they incurred not too long ago. So what we did at Mitcham Chapel is we took a special offering, and we're covering the difference in their parking fees for the next 2 months. So for April and May, we've covered them for their 30 spaces that they're allotted at $20 a piece. So I'll reach out to them and get that information back to them. I spoke with the treasurer today, and she said that she would make that information available to them. And for those who have already bought their passes, they can come back and get a refund for the overage. So those are the couple of things I wanted to bring. But the one thing I wanted to raise also with that second point is that anybody can do this. It's not just, it doesn't have to be a big organization. Any individual apparently can go to the treasurer and say, hey, I'd like to put some money on the Royal Oak Manor's parking if you feel so moved. And we did, so that's one of the reasons that I come here. It's not just to listen to the entertaining conversation and to stay up late on a Monday night. It's really to have something to bring back and that we can share with the city and to kind of move the needle on some of the open issues that remain. So that's all I have tonight. You all enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. All right, anybody else here? Oh, I see a hand in the aisle. Is that Mr. Wolf?
Ron Wolf, 333 North Troy Street. Thank you, Reverend. That's an excellent example of people getting involved personally. I'm going to address that maybe a little later. Mr. Ashley's out ill, so I'll try to relay that message to him, by the way. I want to bring up something. I'm very happy to hear about this Royal Oak Community Foundation replacing or supplementing what's left, or replacing Roots, I guess. It's as a nonprofit, 501(c), is it? C3, right, did I get that? And what I am excited about is, you know, years ago, Kennedy said, some of these days we're going to put a man on the moon. I'd like to see us get a downtown park. And I'm going to repeat, this wonderful lady who was assistant to the former mayor of New York, Mr. Bloomberg, Amanda Burden, Burden, TED Talk, TED, The Value of City Parks. Please Google that and listen closely. I told this years ago. I hope this new foundation will copy more or less what was happened at Star Dream Fountain, and that we start looking at making a downtown park, because what's really upsetting me right now is at the last DDA meeting, it was revealed that the DDA is donating $5 million towards the park. I don't know what else is going towards the park, but Mr. Johnson has pointed out that a lot of that money will be going towards taking down this building, which is probably going to take a good chunk out of that, leaving very little to put in what I would dream to be a great city park that would really bring more than monarch butterflies to the city. It would bring so much to the city, and it would make you proud to be a resident of the city. Everyone can literally puff out their chest. I live in Royal Oak. Look what we did here. And you're doing this for generations to come. So please. Now getting back to Royal Oak Manor. It's only less than 30 residents. And I was told it should be, regardless whether they're old, whether they're, you have handicaps, whether they've been veterans, whether they lived all their lives in Royal Oak before they went to this building, as many of them have done. Besides that, we need to, they are Royal Oak citizens. And it bothers me greatly that an ordinary Royal Oak citizen living on a resident-restricted street pays only $25 for the entire year, and you're charging them $45 a month, and you originally agreed $25 a month. And then, of course, Mr. Katzman, in his generosity, plans to only charge them $25 a month when his project goes up. But that's 18 months from now. So I'm begging you to do something tonight. I mean, what really bothered me was Mr. Dunstan, and I'm not blaming him personally, he just simply repeated again that you gave the DDA the authority to do everything, and he said that that it is their commission's, it's the commission's decision and and the DDA's decision to turn it over to the police department, Chief O'Donoghue, and I guess it's Sergeant Tycho, but
Mr. Wolf, I do need you to finish your last idea,
again,
please.
what does the police department have to do with parking? You know, so again, it only takes 3 people to put this on the agenda. The sooner it's done, the sooner these poor seniors can stop skimping on what they need to survive. They're eating tuna fish. I mean, you know, they're doing everything they can to keep their cars. Their cars is the last vestige of independence a senior has. Realize this, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Anybody else here wish to speak at public comment this evening? Going once. Mr. Colo.
I'm happy you can see me back there underneath that light, so.
I saw a young, strapping, handsome man, and then I realized the lighting wasn't great.
Always love talking here. Brandon Colo, 600 East Hudson Avenue. So I was planning on coming out tonight, and then I looked and saw that Mary was being honored with a proclamation. So probably for the last time now, I'd like to come out and once again just thank Mary for her years of service to the library. What wasn't mentioned tonight is that on the library board, we actually renamed the youth activity room the Mary M. Karshner Youth Activity Room. It's quite an honor. There's only one other room in the building that's named after an organization, and that's the Friends Auditorium, quite frankly, because they built it. So for Mary to be the first person honored like that, it's a pretty special thing. So thank you to Mary. And while I'm talking about the library, I see there's some friends in here, and they just did finish a book sale, once again raising countless funds for us. So that's they fund all our programming, so thank you to the friends for their tireless work. So putting on my private citizen hat for a second here, we also have Norby Oaks on the agenda tonight, and having gone to a lot of those public engagement sessions and the charrette and learning what a charrette actually was, I'm pretty excited to see that tonight we can see phase 1 and 2 completed. So thank you to everyone who worked here to make sure that could happen. And the Oakland County Commission did a great job with that too. So thank you to everyone. But while that's the big shiny thing, I think it's important to remember going to the budget process that we do have, 49 other parks in the city that I know everyone's keenly aware need to be maintained up, kept up. So I'm excited to see what you guys do in the budget next year to make that happen. And then finally, I just wanted to mention, I see that you guys have a wage bid on your last agenda item tonight, and I'm really excited to see how that conversation goes. I was excited last year when you set forth, President, that we want to have prevailing wage, and hopefully we can come up with something that makes us a city friendly to prevailing wage. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fellow. Anybody else here wish to speak tonight? All right, we're going to end public comment, bring the meeting back up here, which gets us to the approval of the agenda. I hope if there's a motion to approve the agenda that it includes, a firefighter's letter of agreement that was discussed in closed session, as well as the authorized settlement negotiations for a case we discussed in closed session as well. And I believe there's been a request by the city manager to postpone item number 20, the discussion of construction wage bid policy. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We've had a legal opinion on that. We think we should have a discussion of the legal opinion first.
Okay. Commissioner Perush?
I will move approval of the agenda with the items that you just mentioned, adding the employment contracts, removing item 20. That's it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Perush. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Macy. Discussion. All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove something from the consent agenda? Commissioner Lavasser.
Item G.
G, the approval of extension of Franco Professional Services contract. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else wish to remove anything? Okay, so now we have a consent agenda, which consists of City Commission meeting minutes, March 4th work session, March 11th work session, and March 11th, 2019, claims March 15th and March 26th, 2019, approval of purchase orders, exercise contract extension option for materials testing and quality control services, approval of LiveBarn, John Lindell Ice Arena, City of Royal Oak agreement, proclamation designating April 25th, 2019 as Arbor Day in Royal Oak, receive and file non-action items, which consists of February 2019 investment report and the February 2019 Franco project activity report. Is there a motion? Motion by Commissioner Douglas. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Macy. Discussion on the consent agenda. With none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. The remaining item, item G, Commissioner Lavasser.
Thank you. I don't know if there's someone present from Franco or not. There is? Wonderful. Thank you. I had a few questions, and certainly I had concerns when we first approved this contract. For me, the question is how we're evaluating the results of the first campaign, and whether that then shows that we have a measurable enhancement in communications with regard to the parking in our downtown with the public that would warrant extending the contract. The second, I was just looking for some clarification on the total expenses here. The second page of the PDF that we received references a budget of $75,000. There's a reference of $142,000, and I just wanted to make sure I fully understood what that meant, and make sure I fully understood how much total this campaign is costing us, not just what we're paying Franco, but also what we may be paying in other external costs.
I know we have Elizabeth Robinson-Boring here from Franco. She can specifically answer that point on the budget. I think actually how they put this in perspective is that they put in more work than we actually paid them for. The actual value of the work was $142,000. Our contract, our initial contract with them was $75,000. We did not pay them 1 cent above that, which is why we're actually seeking an extension tonight for the next 3 months.
Yeah, so what Todd said was correct. We put in an added value of $142,000 total, so it was a $67,000 in additional value. The scope of the project when we originally agreed to it last year was very different than what we actually ended up doing. There was a lot more added to it, especially with the time delays, changes in time to the project, which is one of the reasons that we were looking to extend our contract right now, because we're still, you know, this week we're going to be closing the final lot, and then we still have to open the parking garage. So there's still a number of communications that are going to be continued for the next 3 months. And we are planning that that would sort of round out the initial phase of the project, because there won't be a lot of things happening in the meantime once the garage opens until some of the other buildings are completed. So what we did is the final budget that we proposed for a 3-month contract extension was just our monthly rate for 3 months. But we put this in here because we wanted everybody on the commission to understand that we're very dedicated to this project. We spent a lot of extra time meeting with the city, meeting with the businesses in and around the area. We spent actually a lot of the initial parts of our project meeting with the business owners around the construction area to help them understand what was going on, to understand their concerns, to help troubleshoot things that were happening. And I think that, you know, as a result of that, we've had a lot of really good successes, especially with the number of business owners that have actually gotten on board with events that we've done to celebrate some of the construction kickoffs, and really kind of become promoters almost, if you will, or ambassadors for the project. So I think that's definitely one of the measurements that we would take, as well as I think the communications around the project have been really helpful to citizens to know what's going to happen next, what's closing, what's coming, understanding what's going to change, what they're going to need to know to get around, the development of all of the parking guides, all of the communications materials, all of the events that we've had have been really helpful in that understanding. And I think if you look at any of even just like an anecdotal listen to some of the Facebook groups and some of the conversation that's been happening anecdotally, a lot of people have a really good understanding of what's happening next. And, you know, I'd like to see that continue for the next few months of the project until the garage is opened.
Is there a measurable evaluation where we can say this is where we would have been had we not adopted this contract? Had we not spent the $75,000?
Well, we did take a survey at the beginning of the project. That was one of the things that was in our scope of work. So we did survey a lot of people, three different groups of people. So that was something that we did. I think if we were gonna, you know, if you wanted really specific kind of measurable results for that, we could resurvey the same amount of people to get that. But I think if you look anecdotally at all of the meetings that we've had with the business owners, that would be a good temperature take, I guess, in terms of how they're responding to things. If you look at the communications that have gone out around the project, letting people know what's happening, what's being included, the sentiment that's going on, which you've seen in all of your activity reports, that's a good way to measure that. We did do a nice summary. I think you have this month's summary that you can look at, but if you put all of those together, you can also see some of that. And then in this proposal that you guys have in your packet, we have a project recap that you can see everything that we've done in a nice little summary up front. So I would suggest that you take a look at that.
Commissioner Macy.
So I also had some questions about this agenda item. I think from a slightly different angle, I think that this has gone much more smoothly than I anticipated, and I give a lot of credit to Franco for that. I think people do understand what's happening. I think the parking situation that seemed so dire has not come to pass. All the concerns about that. Although we are right now at the very worst point, starting on Wednesday when we're going to lose that lot where the police station is being built. And I can see that that's a concern. However, I almost feel like Franco is a victim of its own success because it seems to me that a 3-month extension, I almost feel like at some point the handover has to come to us for us to start taking over communication on this. And I kind of feel like having done the bulk of the work, we're ready for that. So to me, when I think about this, it just seems like I'm already happy with what you've done, and I don't know that I necessarily need to go forward. I think we can do that maybe on our own as we take over and celebrate this the changeover from the total lack of parking to the new parking structure coming on board.
Anybody else? Questions? That was more of a comment. Oh, Commissioner Douglas.
Yeah, I will say that I mean, my career has been in public relations. I advocated for the city to hire a professional public relations firm because I knew the scope of work that this was going to entail, and that our existing community engagement staff, when I say staff, I mean Judy Davids, would never be able to execute, there isn't enough hours in the day to execute this level of professional communication. And a lot of it is invisible to the public because so much of the work that Franco did was in the local business community. And I, for one, have been very pleased with the positive support that we've had from businesses. I mean, I've seen the literature in in restaurants and so forth, with the parking guides and so forth. I think it's very hard for their work to be unsung because it's not necessarily visible to us or to citizens. I agree. And again, you look at social media, and I've just really seen the tenor of the conversation change. I'm going to say over the past couple of months. It seems like there's a greater understanding. More people. I mean, my favorite is always when somebody posts a photograph of a parking deck, sign that says 300 spaces available here. So people are now recognizing what we do have available to us. Happily, because we built the structure by the post office when we did, in order to relieve some of the pressure on other parts of the city. And I would advocate for we've got to get through just this next few months, get the new parking deck open in time really for, the new food season stuff to start coming into the farmer's market. And I think I would advocate keeping them through that period of time.
Commissioner Prush.
I guess I would add on to that. It has been so successful up to this point that I would hate to have it just come to a screeching halt and then have the wheels come off over the next 3 months. I mean, if that were to happen, it's going to be a really long 3 months. And it's going to be the most difficult part because of the way the parking is going to change starting on Wednesday. So I think they've done a tremendous job, and I guess I have confidence in our staff to be able to carry some of that momentum forward. But I think in no way do they have the time or the resources to be able to continue to do what Franco's been doing. It's only a 3-month extension. It's a relatively modest cost, I think. They clearly have demonstrated that they put a whole lot more hours in that they've been compensated for. So I think given that, this is a fair approach to it. And in 3 months, it's done. And we will be beyond the really most difficult part of the project. I just am really concerned that if we don't have them going forward, trouble will be on the horizon very, very quickly, and I don't want to go down that path because we've come so far, and I don't want it to go backwards.
Commissioner Gibbs.
I do appreciate that your team, the Franco team, at least you, Elizabeth, and Meg and I have seen at the farmer's market once. I saw you out to eat. I don't believe you saw me, but that's fine. It was quick in passing. But I do appreciate the fact that you're taking part in our community. You live here, though, don't you?
Yeah, Megan and I.
Okay, you both live here, okay. Oh, there she is. I'm just not sure that we don't have a measure that we should be continuing this contract because we don't have a measurable, we don't have a way of measuring what the impact has actually been. And also, we're awfully close to finished. And I question another $22,000 being spent on this to extend this contract.
Commissioner Dubak?
No, I understand particularly the concerns raised by Commissioner Macy. Metrics, I do think are important, although I think that we have seen success in making sure residents are aware of what's happening when, which was the whole reason that we did this. Some of our toughest moments over the past few years have been self-inflicted with lack of really high-quality proactive communication, which is, again, why we did this, and I think we've been successful at that. Curious about, there are metrics available, right, like media hits?
Yep, those are all in the activity reports, all the media hits, everybody that we've reached out to. We've done a recap in the beginning of the proposal that you can see everything we've done. We have a lot of data that we've collected from all of the meetings, everything that we've done together, and but yeah, we do have a number of media hits.
Do we
that
have
I can
unique
pull that number together for you? I don't have it in front of me.
Sure, I think that would be helpful to see, the extent to which, we're reaching residents beyond, I very much appreciate the direct communication with businesses, who, some of whom have gone to extreme measures to communicate their dissatisfaction, although overall majority of businesses just want to be in the loop about what's going on and make sure that, they can prepare accordingly, and I think you've done a good job at that. But as far as the broader community, what about unique web hits to the Rethink?
Yeah, we'd have to get those. I think Judy can pull those when she's available, hopefully tomorrow, for us, because we can't access that part. But I can get those for you. And then also, we've done a little bit more than just traditional media relations. We've done a lot of communication through Royal Oak social media channels, Nextdoor, and those different things. And we can compile some of the like numbers or times that we've communicated, really trying to get out there past the traditional media outlets, so we're hitting a different audience there.
Yeah, I think some of those are some of the things that my colleagues are looking for, and just something we can track. Also, how often are we doing website refreshes, given the rapid pace at which this project has been moving forward?
Those, so the Rethink Royal Oak site is updated in real time. We're usually updating it maybe once or twice a week as things are happening. We just updated it last week with some of the new parking information and some of the lot updates. And then we'll be updating it again tomorrow, assuming everything goes through today. We'll be updating it with all the new information about the lot going offline, since we just got the final dates and timeline for that today. So that'll have an update as well. But we're updating the parking guide usually a couple times a week. That's getting updated. We put news hits up there, releases, and anything that people need to know about where to park, how to park. Any information about construction goes on there as well.
Okay. So yeah, I think some of those just as regular updates, so we can understand the extent to which people are engaging with this campaign, so we can see real-time value would be helpful. We definitely appreciate the work you put in above and beyond the contract. I understand my colleagues' concerns. I don't think we have the ability to do something of this magnitude in the House. If someone does have a counter proposal, I'm certainly willing to consider it, but I'm certain Judy does not have that capacity right now. And particularly, as Commissioner Mason noted, we're about to get into the tightest part over the next 6 weeks with that police station lot coming offline and before the new deck opens. And those 6 weeks, I think, are where we're really going to have to make sure we're communicating with the public that we are open for business, park in the decks. So that's where I'm at. I think there is value here. I understand the concerns.
Well, and even too, I think the important thing to consider is not just the lack of parking that's, we're gonna have with a little bit of the construction coming in, but also when the deck opens, a little bit of time to get people acclimated to the deck, how it's gonna work. Do they have to have cash? Do they have to have credit? What kind of handicap spaces are there gonna be? All of those questions that people are asking about the deck, there's gonna be a lot of things coming in that I think we'll want to communicate as well, is just getting people acclimated to how they're gonna use it, and letting them know that it's there and it's open and available. I think that's gonna be a really important part of the project.
Absolutely, and I think we'll want to see a concentrated effort to really just change expectations and psychology. Like when you're visiting downtown Royal Oak, just plan to be in a deck. You won't get a ticket. You get 2 hours free, and you're generally going to be no more than 2 blocks from where you're going anyway.
And I think you'll see too, we address that in our plan, and we have some really fun and I think great ideas that you'll see, have worked for us in the past and that would work well on this project as well, to get people really engaged in using the deck, and just, again, not to keep using the pun, but rethinking, how they're interacting with the downtown.
Thanks.
Okay. I just have a few comments, and I appreciate the dialogue, and I appreciate all of my fellow commissioners' comments, and thank you, Elizabeth and Franco, for coming out tonight and kind of being prepared to talk about, the journey we've gone under here in the past year. This isn't the only project we have going on in Royal Oak. It's certainly an important transformational project that is going to help keep Royal Oak a leader in public safety, bring some green space to our downtown, have better operations out of City Hall, and of course, create more parking for visitors and residents alike to enjoy our vibrant and flourishing downtown. But again, I know I'm in City Hall every week, sometimes multiple times, and I sit down with Ms. Schwanger, Mr. Johnson, and Ms. Davids, and I know that their plate is full, from things like Normandy Oaks to, a whole myriad of things that are going on in our community that are important, and, just as much as this project. So this is a blip we're gonna have. It's a temporary construction blip. It's a very good thing, but it is a blip nonetheless. And I think having extra hands on deck, extra resources that are experienced in this and that have been doing it, especially as we come up to the most challenging couple-month period here, where we're bringing on a new deck, but having to take a parking lot offline, we're gonna need expert communication. I think all of us here in our last, in January, when we were all sitting down talking about our priorities for the year, and we do it every year. We talk about communication, transparency being the really top priority, and I think that we want to make sure that we continue to be transparent and communicative on this project, so our businesses stay strong, our residents know where to go, and our visitors know where to go, and then eventually, as the effort dwindles down, we'll normalize, and Ms. Davids and Ms. Schwanger and the whole crew can manage accordingly. So I agree with Commissioner Perush. I mean, if I could edit copy her words and say them again, I would. Maybe that's what I should have just said, Commissioner Perush. I agree. It saved everyone a minute of their life. So, Commissioner Douglas.
Motion to approve the contract extension to Franco.
A motion by Commissioner Douglas. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Perush. Discussion. With none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay, can I get a hand of the nays? Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Good luck. Appreciate you and the effort of your team. Okay, this brings us to the first regular scheduled agenda item, which is item number 10, the Recreational Passport Grant Program, Public Input and Application. I think Julie's here. There she is.
Thank you.
So this is a resolution to request approval to submit a grant application to the Michigan DNR to help support paving the Arboretum trails that are existing right now, and also open the floor up to some public input. So the basic details of this grant are that we would like to pave 1,300 feet of the trails that run through the Arboretum right now, so that it can be for all ages and all abilities, and also install an ADA-compliant picnic table and 2 ADA-compliant benches. We are going to write the grant application for $82,800, and the balance of $27,700 would be a match from the city, making the total $110,500 for the whole project, including our engineering costs in-house. So here today we have Bob Muller from the Nature Society. He's going to give a little bit more detail, and he has a picture of the project map on the computer that he can tap into so you all can see it, I think.
Mr. Muller, welcome.
You can see you're doing something. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
We've been developing the Arboretum for 11 years now. It started out as a waste area behind the community center filled with an invasive plant which was giving us trouble in the nature parks. And so the first thing in our mind was just getting rid of the invasive plant. And then the decision was made to try to have a collection of all the trees native to the state of Michigan that weren't in the either Tenhave Woods or Cummingston, and develop a few other plant communities that used to be here when the settlers first arrived that aren't, as a good teaching aid. We've been using, for a while, we just simply had dirt trails, but it's sunny, and therefore everything grows on the dirt trails. It was hard to tell if there was a trail or you were walking through the flowers. Mowing it doesn't work. We put wood chips down. It took like 15, 20 yards of wood chips. You needed almost 6 inches deep. First year they lasted 3-4 years. Now that the fungus that eats the wood is on the trails, 8 inches of wood chips last 1 year. We've got 3 or 4 people that do work, and most of them are older than me. We can't move that many wood chips. There's no way to maintain these trails. So if we really want to have this botanical garden arboretum functioning well, we need hard surface trails. This also allows us to run nature programs for people that have handicaps. It allows people in the community center, which Paige has told me that about 25% of the people that use that have some amount of walking disability. Thick wood chips, if you just stumble a little bit or weave a little bit in your walking, you can't walk on them. You will tend to fall over. So this could be somebody who just has a cane to people truly in wheelchairs or beyond. And we would love to do, because we've done a few nature programs and advertised them just using the sidewalk, which doesn't get you to most of it. We've had ADA, handicap walks and had good responses from the public. Helen Cost, who was here with the Roots Group, had contacted all kinds of assisted living, nursing homes, facilities in the area and asked, do they have residents that would come to use these paths if they could easily walk them? And most of them responded they would, and they even had buses that could bring people here. There is no other facility like this I know of in Metro Detroit at all. In fact, I can't think of another city that has its own botanical garden that's being developed. We're trying to add a jewel to that nature park system that the city of Royal Oak has. You can see the map. Those are all the trails. And they work in a loop, so we had to add one from what we've built because we realized you wouldn't want to backtrack with a wheelchair. You'd want to be able to go in and follow some route and come back out. Hopefully, you think this is a worthwhile thing. We'd like to move forward. We've dreamed of this for a few years, tried to write grants on our own. That is a very difficult thing to do. Do you have any questions?
Questions for Bob? Commissioner Macy.
Who drew the lines? Like, how are these the paths?
I made that map.
Okay.
I also built half the trails, okay, along with Eagle Scout projects. And we measured them all so we knew what their distances were. They've been named after Royal Oak school teachers, by the way, who had discovered or worked in the nature parks. We have street signs provided by Greg Rassel with the names of these teachers on them.
That's cool.
Any other questions? Maybe just a comment, Bob. Great work as usual. Okay. I mean, you're right. This is a gem of the city, and the more access we can get to it, the better.
I would like to invite everybody here to maybe give me a call. I'll go out with you and I'll show you the facility and what we've got. I'm retired. It should be easy to get a hold of me. I possibly have more time than the rest of you, although maybe not. And also just to mention that our fundraiser, our silent auction is April 26th at the Elks Club. which is where we make all of the money that we put into the parks. We've put over $50,000 of our money into the nature parks in the last 10 years. And we make about $5,000 a year, and we spend $5,000 a year. So we don't have a big budget to do something on our own. Thank you very much.
Hey, Bob, I did have one question. I see that there's a, was there a butterfly garden in here?
Oh, I could mention, actually, we have hundreds of common milkweed,
Okay, I was gonna
swamp
ask.
milkweed, and butterfly weed, which is a milkweed, in the Arboretum Prairie area.
Okay.
We have some in the parks, but they're mainly forests, and these are plants that grow in the sun. So, yeah, as that gentleman was talking, I thought, we already have a lot. And he said he tried to contact us, but I never saw his email, so, but we've got the stuff there.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Bob. Any questions for Julie? Nice work, by the way, getting the grant opportunity. I mean, that's pretty monumental. Commissioner Dubak.
Yeah, I just want to say it's really great to see us activating on some of these grant opportunities, something we've been talking about for a long time. This one would definitely be a tremendous value add for the community, and as you said, a gem. I feel like we talk about gems of Royal Oak a lot because we have so many, which is awesome. So thank you. This looks great. We have to do a hearing. Is that right?
Yeah, I think what we'll do is, I guess, yeah, officially we have to have a hearing, so I'm going to open up that hearing right now. Is there anyone here to speak on this topic? Bob, can we record your comments earlier as part of the public input?
You certainly can.
All right, well, we'll bring it back up to this side of the table, close that hearing. Commissioner Dubak?
Actually, one more question for Julie. Do we, is there anything that commissioners can do to help this along, or, as we move through the process? Are there, decision makers that need to be reached out to?
There is an opportunity for letters of support, and so I certainly can reach out to some of you if you're willing to sign such a thing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All of us.
Great.
All of us, yeah.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for the question.
All right. I'll move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Dubak. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Perush. Discussion. Commissioner Perush.
Just very quickly, the community needs to understand that we have, in our long-range planning, wanted to have a grants coordinator and a grants writer for a long time because we understand that there's a lot of possibilities out there and a lot of opportunities out there that we can't access because you need someone who knows how to do grant writing well in order to take advantage of those. It's a lot trickier a process than you would imagine. And so now that we have Ms. Brooker on staff and someone who understands how to do the process, it's wonderful because we'll be able to take other types of issues like this for other parks, for other types of projects within the community that there are grant resources for, and we'll be able to try to tap into them. And that's something that we have not been able to do up until this time. So it's wonderful to have a grants coordinator on our staff that can do this, because it will mean inevitably a lot more dollars coming into the community in terms of tax dollars that you pay to other governmental units like the state and the federal government that you haven't been able to access to get back because you haven't been able to have the opportunities to write the grants. So this really is a win-win situation, not only for the specific park, but also as an example of what I think we're going to be able to use as a benefit on a going forward basis. So I'm really excited about this.
Commissioner Perush and Commissioner Douglas.
And just teeing up an item later on our agenda, these are government grants, but we also would like to be able to pursue grants from family and corporate foundations, and they often are constricted to only giving grants to 501c3 organizations. So once we have the Royal Oak Civic Foundation, Ms. Lyons-Bricker can write grants to those private foundations to bring additional funds into the city.
Great point. All right, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Julie. Amazing work.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, this brings us to item number 11, Irish Hills Leprechauns renovation proposal, City of Royal Oak Memorial Field 3. John?
Mayor, City Commissioners, On September 18th, 2018, the City of Royal Oaks Recreation Department was contacted by Mark Sackett, Chairman of the Michigan Red Sox, Inc., and President of the Irish Hills Leprechauns, an amateur collegiate summer baseball team, to explore a possibility of using Memorial Park Field 3 as their home field for 21 games between June and July, starting in 2020. Mark Sackett, the Great Lakes Summer Collegiate League Commissioner Darren Brown, and I toured the field and had brief discussions regarding a possible renovation of the field to include a synthetic or artificial turf infield as well as other improvements. The proposed renovations from the Michigan Red Sox, Inc. and the Irish Hill Leprechauns include the install of a synthetic turf infield for $281,000, extend the dugout size to fit a 25-man roster for $16,000, install bullpens with artificial turf for both home and away teams for $15,000, installation of temporary fencing in right field for $20,000, for a total renovation improvements to Memorial Park Field 3 at approximately $333,000. All improvements will be funded by the Michigan Red Sox, Inc. and the Irish Hill Leprechauns, with plans for future improvements. The City of Royal Oak will still have control over the scheduling of the fields, and the Irish Hills Leprechauns will work with the Recreation Department and the Royal Oak Sandlot League in the scheduling of their 21-game home season. The Leprechauns will still be expected to pay the rental fee for use according to the guidelines set up by the City of Royal Oak Parks and Recreation Department and the Parks and Recreation Senior Services Advisory Board. The Leprechauns will also utilize their collegiate players and coaches to run youth camps and prospect camps at Memorial Park. With these improvements and the addition of the Irish Hill Leprechauns to the City of Royal Oak, we anticipate an increase in numbers for our ROSL program, or our Sandlot League, increase in field usage from our local high schools, high-level baseball contests, and a longer playing season, as the synthetic turf will offer greater opportunities for more activity as it reduces rainouts. This proposal has already been reviewed and positively received from the Parks and Recreation and Senior Services Advisory Board on February 7th and has already been presented and received positively by the Royal Oak Sandlot League. With this approval, I anticipate once again the increase in growth in our youth baseball and also an increase in our community engagement within the City of Royal Oak. Upon approval, the Irish Hill Leprechauns will then be called the Royal Oak Leprechauns. And so now I introduce Mark Sackett. He's with the Michigan Red Sox, Inc. and the Irish Hill Leprechauns and his group. He has prepared a presentation regarding the proposal. We'll go more in depth into it.
Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you, John. It's been a great relationship we've had, and I appreciate your time and understanding what we're all about. I want to introduce first our management team that I've got right here. The computer guru, the young guys who are on the computer here. This is Nick Swanson. He runs our operations for the Red Sox, which is our training center and a lot of our training programs. Brad Thompson is back here. Brad is also one of our instructors, has done amazing things for our organization and will continue to do that. And the last gentleman I want to introduce to you is from outside of Dayton, Ohio, and that's Darren Brown. He is the commissioner of the Great Lakes Summer Collegiate League. And I just want Darren to introduce you to the league to hear more about what the Leprechauns are part of.
Thank you for having me tonight, Commissioner and Mayor. We are a league of 12 teams throughout Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, and one team in Tecumseh, Ontario. So we are regionally recognized throughout. I mean, we pull players from the Big 10, the Big 12. I mean, we bring players from all over the country to come in and play. We mix them with local players. Our whole goal is to develop players give them the chance to go to the next level and improve their game. So we've been doing this. We've been in existence since 1987. We're part of the National Allegiance of Summer Collegiate Baseball. That is a consortium of about 19. We flex back and forth between 19 and 21 different leagues across the country, which include the Cape Cod League, which has been in a lot of different movies. That's the premier summer collegiate league in the country. We're in the same group as them. So we've been around a long time. We're affiliated with Major League Baseball. They help partially fund us. They believe in what we do. And just so that you understand, this isn't just a rec program. This is a regionally recognized summer collegiate baseball program that brings players from all over. So hopefully you'll see the worth of it, and I'll turn the rest of it over so you kind of understood where the league is. All right, thank you.
Commissioners, you'll be able to see the presentation on the screen in front of you, but you can also see it on your own screens if you click on Join Presentation.
Yeah, I think I've given you a paper copy, a digital copy, and a PowerPoint, so it's I've overflooded you with information, not to confuse you. I'll try to be somewhat quick with this, but I want to make sure I cover everything that's important for us. So first of all, to give you a summary of the proposal, we want to upgrade. We want to do the turf. We want to improve the dugouts. Bullpens have to be done for our collegiate players, and then also fencing in the right field. Fencing is a temporary fencing that we can put up and take down with ease. Let's see what else we got. We are looking to fund this thing through all the contacts that we have made with our organization, and we will completely fund everything. That's our goal. And we've already begun some discussions, but we've been limited because they want to know if we've got approval or not. Last thing is that you're not just having a rec baseball team. Nothing's wrong with a rec baseball team, but you're having some high-level players come in here and they produce a high-quality baseball, and it's exciting. It's wood bat. It's 9-inning games. It's just like a minor league baseball program in a sense. Okay, next thing we got here. A little more expression of the improvements. The turf, it's going to give us, as John said, more playing time. We should be able to start. I mean, we've got teams now that want to go outside right now, but they can't because there's all the grass and mud and whatever. The turf would allow us to get out here as early as February, and we should be able to play right into early October as well. We run a fall league ourselves. There's also the men's senior baseball league that goes until mid-October. So there's another opportunity for more play, which again would bring in more revenue ultimately for the city. Let's see. When I looked into turf, one of the very first programs in the state of Michigan that brought in turf was Adrian College. And at that time, it was called Progress. It was probably done about in 2000, I'm going to guess about 2008 or 2009. They turfed their entire field at Adrian College. It's a beautiful setup, but they've gone through some learning curves. The person that sold them that product was a guy named Aaron Klotz. Aaron Klotz works for Progress. He is also an assistant baseball coach at Adrian College. He was my son's assistant baseball coach, and I've known him for a very long time. Since then, Progress has been bought out by AstroTurf. AstroTurf, again, he's the baseball specialist. I've gone to Aaron, talked to him quite extensively about this project. He's the one that's guided me on this and guided me in a good way, not in a salesman way. This is what you need. This is what you need to do. This is how we need to do it. Another thing about along with the turf is that he has put me in contact with a company called S&H Trucking and Excavating. They're the people that's going to do all the soil and groundwork. That company has also been contracted to do Royal Oak High School this year. They'll be doing it this summer. So they've been approved by they understand how to do it. They've also did the turf over at Novi High School. They understand how to do it, but again, they've been already approved with Royal Oak High School, so we're excited about that. Dugouts, there's going to be a little bit, we will go on the outfield side of both the home and visitor at Royal Oak. They'll be large enough for handling our rosters. The bullpens, it comes in one sheet of turf that's cut in half, so that will fit perfectly for the two bullpens we need. We have to have those turf bullpens because pitchers are going from the bullpen onto the field, so they need to have that bullpens done there. With the fencing situation, that is, we've got everything. I've contacted a special company. We'll put inserts in the ground. We'll put the fence up. Fence is easily pulled out, put away. That'll be taken care of by all the Leprechaun players. These are young guys. They can handle it. I won't be doing it myself, but so they'll be handling it. And that'll be part of their responsibilities. Along with the fencing is also a winged foul pole that we will need. That has to be part of the field. So, and again, we'll take care of all that. what else we got here? We got next slide is why do we want to do why Memorial Park? Number one, we've always been in Oakland County. Our organization began in Birmingham. It expanded in 2005 to become a nonprofit organization. Birmingham, Bloomfield, Beverly Hills, Royal Oak, Ferndale. We've got kids all over Oakland County that come to our program. So we wanted to bring our team back home to Oakland County. Another thing we were looking for is lighted facilities. So we had Clawson, we had Berkeley, we had Memorial Park, and we had Pontiac. Out of all those communities, we felt the best fit would be Royal Oak. Great community, great downtown, great location. That was the second thing. The other thing is the management support. We needed to find maybe a city manager or a city official that would understand what we're all about. This is all our second job. I mean, I'm a full-time elementary classroom school teacher. Brad, we all work, we all do something else. This is our side fun thing that we do. But we're very passionate about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here for sure. So we have John's support through that. The communities, of course, in Royal Oak, but not just Royal Oak, but Ferndale and Berkeley and Birmingham and Beverly Hills are all right there to help support our product. And you know, I first came in contact with Memorial Park in 1972. I was only 8 years old, and my dad was a high school baseball coach at Birmingham Seahome. And the first Tuesday or first Saturday after Memorial Day, we spent at Memorial Park because that was our district tournament, and it was great. And it's a very memorable thing for me. And fortunately, in 1988, when we won our state championship, we won our first district there, and I'll never forget it. Got pictures all over the place. So Memorial Park was something that touches me personally in a lot of different ways, but also it's a perfect fit for what we're looking for. Next slide would be the Royal Oak Leprechauns. You know, I know we got a lot of logos in our league, but I know that the person we deal with at MLB is a guy named Chuck Fox, and he likes the Leprechaun logo the best out of all of ours. So I feel like, you know, just adding Royal Oak to it is the only difference it's going to be. And I think we will change our name there. We'll be able to rebrand this product into this area. I've already spoken with the Royal Oak Sandlot League president, and we have a good relationship, I believe. John's helped us bring us together, and I think again we're not here to kick anybody out. We're here to work in conjunction with them because it's important that our Leprechaun players, who are typically 70% of our players are Division I players, so they don't really work in the summertime, but we need to keep them busy. So that they come in and work our camps, to establish a relationship with their host families, and I think that's real important for both the players and for the host families that we look to find. And then at every one of our games, and even though we're down in Adrian, they're family events. They're fun. We do different things that people enjoy going to game and going to watch, whether it be throwing T-shirts into the stands, you know, having a different gadget each inning for people to win things, so that there's more crowd participation in our event. Next slide should be beneficiaries. And I really think that Royal Oak, the community, is going to benefit. These teams that we play, they're going to be coming into town. They're going to have to stay overnight, at least one night. So that's going to bring some hotel nights in. The kids on our teams, their families are from all over the country. They're going to come in. They're going to stay for a week or a couple days. So they're going to have families going to be coming in. Every time teams come in, we provide them meals before they go home, even if they don't stay overnight. So there'll be a lot of things that we'll be utilizing out of the city of Royal Oak to benefit these players. We bring in interns to do a lot of our scorekeeping, to do a lot of our promotional gadgets. A lot of sports management interns will come in, so they'll be into town. They'll make things more fun. Parks and Rec, we expect them to make a lot more, their revenues to increase. They're going to have a lot more renters, we believe, and I just know it because I've already had a lot of people inquiring about, hey, if this goes through, let me know. We want to use the field. So I said, well, that'll be Parks and Rec. That'll be John's job to take care of that. So then the ROSL. I think once the kids see a nice field, a really nice field, that's going to inspire them to want to continue to play. And they want to play at that higher level, not necessarily the collegiate level, but at least at the high school level. It'll want them to go there. So I think it's going to benefit the high school as well as just even the Royal Oak Sandlot League. And then of course our Leprechaun team. I'm a big believer in giving back. We have kids in our program who sometimes don't even pay a lot of money because they can't afford it. But we have them do other things for us. These Leprechaun players, and we did it when we were in Adrian, they did a lot of things to get involved with the community. And it's important for they understand that they do get involved. We've had many players in our league, and Darren could attest to this. I believe it's on our website, listing all the players that participate in the Great Lakes League that are now in the pros and still trying to make it. So we really think there's a lot of guys, if they're Division I players, most likely they have a good opportunity to advance to the next level. And then again, probably one of the things is one of my former players, when he was living with us, not living with us, but living in Adrian last summer, one of the things he said, I think he played in New York, and he lived with the host family, and he said, I still keep in touch with that host family. I still know their kids, and that's the relationship that's developed. So if we find the host families, whether it be in Royal Oak or Berkeley or wherever, that they develop those intense relationships. Next thing is funding, as you see. We've got a specific account set up specifically for raising money for this project, not part of our operations at all. We're involved with a nonprofit like email marketing company called Network for Good, and they're really good at helping me send out the emails and try to get solicit donations. But then our biggest money we feel is going to come from our corporate donors. We've already made a lot of touch base a lot of corporate people, and again, we're just waiting to push further. Directly in center field, of course, is sitting Beaumont Hospital. We do have a contact there with some people on the board. We've got some other people. Illich Holdings we've been in touch with, and again, we just haven't been able to do anything do a complete presentation until we know for sure that, hey, this can go through. We've got several of our contacts. We've got alumni players. We have 350 alumni players, 9 of them in the big leagues right now. One of them was drafted by the Detroit Tigers, a Royal Oak native, Patrick McKenzie. And then, of course, other people in our program is Colin Kaline and this other boy named Brandon Eckerly, who's the all-time hits leader at Michigan State. So, and I know we got some Spartan people up here, so it's all good there. So I'm a Spartan grad myself, so it's all right there. So we've got nine players. Matter of fact, I was just saw a posting the other day. We have one of our former players, a pitcher, who's actually from Mount Pleasant, and he was throwing to one of our Adrian College grads, and it was just kind of cool seeing some of your former guys on TV. Our most famous former player is a young guy that's wearing pinstripes right now, and that's out in New York, and that's DJ LeMahieu. He was in our program. It was quite special having him. He should be right where he is because he's a terrific young man, getting older, I guess, as he says there. So our funding, we think, is really strong. We think we are confident it's going to go through. Next thing, facility usage, as I mentioned already, we believe it's going to be extended from February to October. The travel ball, the high school teams, this men's senior baseball league. Men's senior baseball league is a pretty big league for a bunch of old timers who still think they can play. I participated in one event out in Arizona with the men's senior baseball league, and that will be the last time I do that. So it was a great experience. It was a father-son. My son was a catcher, and I got to pitch to him, and my arm still has not been back. At the same time, it's a very strong league, and the director of the league is a friend of mine, and said, yes, we'll use it. You get it, we'll use it. Maintenance of the field is just it's just going to be completely reduced. The fencing, as I said, is going to be taken care of by the Leprechauns. The turf is very easy to manage. It just needs standard taken care of. And there's a grooming machine that AstroTurf provides, and it's pretty simple to use. And the last thing, to extend the length of these fields, we're going to make sure that all the kids are wearing these rubber molded cleats. 14 on up, they're wearing metal cleats. I want to see everyone use molded cleats. Are going to extend the life of it. In our league, we have a team down. We have a team down in Hamilton, Ohio, outside of Cincinnati, and they have turf in their infield. And we had some coaching changes last year, and our team traveled down there, and we didn't know we couldn't use metal cleats. So before the game, I'm crossing the river to the local sports store, and I spent about $300 on rubber molded cleats. because we couldn't play unless we had the rubber molded cleats. So my plan, because I had that bad experience, why can't we be like a bowling alley? Why can't we have shoes at this field? Push it to people and say, look, you have to wear molded cleats. People are going to show up without molded cleats. And we'll have shoes there for them to either rent or just give them, to let them use. And I think it'd be that way we're not going to eliminate someone who could play from playing. So that's that. The other, the maintenance, and then the last thing is our other thing is joint operating agreement. We're looking to work with city attorneys and trying to come up with a reasonable way. We certainly don't want to take all the money from this. I mean, we do, but that's not the purpose. All the money we make as a nonprofit will be reinvested into the program. We've got some proposals to split the proceeds, so to speak, for the use of just that field. Anything that is positive for our organization will go right back. We'll put it into a field reinvestment fund. We'll put it into redoing different things. Again, reinvestment. I get a paycheck from somewhere else. I'm not looking to make this thing my livelihood. So that's not my goal here. My goal is to try to continue to develop and continue to build baseball, especially in our Oakland County area. So that's it. I think one of the last slides has to do with the long-term program there. Is that what it says there? We have a very strong commitment with the Great Lakes League. It's not something where you just like, we're not going to play this year, or hey, we'll come back in a couple years. We have a franchise agreement that we have to honor. So we're going to maintain that the agreement with the franchise with the Great Lakes League. There is a significant cost to be participating in the Great Lakes League. I believe now the new franchise fee is about $40,000. So it's payable over a 5-year period. So we've already got 3 years invested into the Great Lakes League. We're not going anywhere. We've already got money. We're going to lose money if we get out now. We're committed to the league. As you can see, I listed year 1, 2, 3, and 4. What we plan on doing to continue to improve the field and the park. And then, and of course, the refurbishing fund, because that turf, they say there's an 8-year warranty on that turf. It'll last for a good 10 to 12 years if it's taken care of, if molded cleats are used on that field. So, but the plan is at least 8 years because that's what the warranty lasts for. Okay, and the last thing I think we have is just give you a little bit of history of the Michigan Red Sox. Again, my kids grew up. We started our team in Birmingham. We wanted to put that B on our hat because we were all from there. So we used the Boston B. After about 4 years, we started getting kids from all over, from different communities that came to our team and came to our organization. So that's where we became the Michigan Red Sox. I was a Red Sox fan when I was younger. Of course, I'm a Red Sox fan now because, the World Series title helped them last year, of course. So that's where the Red Sox came from. And again, we just, like I said, my biggest thing with Memorial Park is in 1988, when you get to spend time with your father coaching, and winning a district championship like we did. We only won one, and it was just a great thing. So I want to keep that memory alive and keep coming back to Memorial Park. We have a training center, which is out in Pontiac. It's out in Waterford, actually, right at Elizabeth Lake Road and Telegraph. It's ideal for our players. And again, these are Division I baseball players that are looking to come here. So they need a place to work out. And, that would be ideal for them to go. We've got weight training center in there, besides batting cages and a fielding area and a throwing area. So we have a lot of good things for our players right here in Oakland County. And then that's it. The Leprechauns started off in... they started off in the Livonia Collegiate League, which is a Livonia rec league, basically. We struggled to get players because it was more of a show up and play and go home. All the kids were local players. And at the time, actually, our team was called the Motor City Pride Baseball Club. So we were in Livonia League. About ready to hang it up, one of my friends was part of the Great Lakes League, said, hey, we're expanding. Hey, let's have this, why don't you have another team? We could not use the Red Sox. We could not use the Pride or Motor City Power because of the Major League Baseball affiliation. So we had to change our name. So we wanted to use some great baseball fields, and they were down in Adrian at Siena Heights University. That was our home. That's the Irish Hills area. That's the Irish Hills Leprechauns. That's how they became there. That's how the name Irish Hills Leprechauns came. And now by moving them to Oakland County, our goal, and I think you have it in your packet, if not have it, you've seen a couple logos here, it would be the Royal Oak Leprechauns, and we'd be proud to represent the Royal Oak community using the Leprechaun name there. So, and then basically down in Adrian, if anybody's ever been to Adrian, it's 2 college town, a Division III program, very good baseball program, a NAIA program, which is at Siena Heights University, but come summertime, it's pretty quiet. So not much happening there. And we just couldn't develop the fan base. There's schools too far away, you know, and it was just really a difficult time. We'd have 10 to 15 people a night come to the games, and that won't cut it. So as a classroom 5th grade teacher, we're always looking to take our kids to a ball game. So USPBL does not offer anything in June in the matinee. Going to the entire game is pretty expensive for our schools. So this would be an ideal thing for us to bring our 5th graders to the park on a matinee. We could set it up. We'll do it with Royal Oak. We'll do it with all the communities in the area, trying to get the kids and the community involved in what we're doing. So I believe that's it. Like I said, I have a management team, people, and floor is yours if you have any questions. Can I help you out?
Any questions? Commissioner Lavasser.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to get a little clarification with regard to the turf. Are we talking infield only? Are we talking about outfield as well? What is anticipated here?
It is just the infield. When we toured the field, when Darren toured the field, the outfield's in great shape. So we'd just be doing the infield.
So even during this early springtime, the weather wouldn't be an issue with the outfield there?
You know, depends on that weather. Okay. So you're right though. I know their team's playing. Actually, I saw a note about one of our high schools. Birmingham Groves is playing out at Rochester today. So they were able to get their game in. But most of the time, games can't be played or due to weather. So. Okay.
And just so I can make sure I have a grasp on what the league is here. My understanding is we're talking about pretty highly skilled college students. Mm-hmm. We're talking amateurs. We're not talking about professionals, rookie league, or single A or anything like that, but it's essentially before they would get to that stage, if I'm understanding correctly.
Exactly. They have to have college eligibility. If they graduate, they cannot play in the league. I'm correct on that, right? They have to have college eligibility. Okay.
And it's a little different concept than I've heard of. I sometimes hear about independent
mm-hmm.
leagues.
Sure.
I get the sense that that's professional. That would be a different concept than what we're talking about here.
Correct. That independent baseball is professionals. It's yes, independent baseball. Minor, they get paid. Okay. Not much, they get paid.
Yeah, I just read that some of the minor leaguers got a boost in pay, but it's still minuscule. And just another thing, I presume we're looking at a potentially long-term contract. You're making a significant.
Without a doubt. Mm-hmm.
And then the question is on the back end, as far as let's say we get to the end of the contract, what it would take to either return the field to a natural turf field or to replace that artificial turf, that sort of thing.
Well, I think that's something that we could deal with the city attorneys on to make sure that we have a solid agreement. So, hey, what do we do after 10 years? And again, from my standpoint, I'm more than happy to commit revenues, part of our revenues, into that field refurbishment. Maybe we could do the same thing with the city of Royal Oak. So we're both putting it into it. And if we eventually get it turned over, if it's a successful thing, which we're extremely confident that this is hot in that corner, that maybe something as Royal Oak would want to take full control of it, and Royal Oak would want to make more money at it. So but we really believe it can be a very successful venture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dubak.
Sure. So this is a really exciting proposal. I've got baseball players at home who play in the Sandlot League. So you have been in touch with ROSL folks, and they're confident you all can work the schedules and make sure everything is coordinated so their season's not.
Definitely. The president slips my mind.
Bruce Davis.
Was that Bruce Davis? Yeah, Bruce. Oh, is he Bruce here? Oh, hey, Bruce. Okay, we talked electronically and on the phone, but I have no. So yeah, Bruce and I have talked about it, and they usually have weekends open, and we schedule there. Darren does our schedule, and we got to have field dates to him by end of September. He works all the month of October on scheduling and making sure that what's available, what's not available. But Bruce also is very good with his schedule, and we'd work really closely on there. The priority goes to ROSL. I understand that. We put the money in, we provide the field, but I think Bruce and I, the conversation we've had is going to be, let's work together on this because we're going to benefit a lot of people here if we can do this.
I think lifting up baseball is great for the community and great for those young players to have an opportunity to see people playing at the next level.
Without a doubt.
So if I'm understanding, your revenue streams are corporate sponsorship, and then is there fee for entry?
Fee for our players?
Watch the games.
Oh, yes, there is. I'm sorry. Yes, there is an admission charge, a $5 admission charge. Our games are all broadcasted on radio. They're also, we've got some connection with doing some video broadcasting. And then we do media guides and we do banners to help support the team.
Okay.
So.
And then concession stand operations during your games, would that be run by you or a contractor of your choice, or would that be still, right now I think our civic organizations during RSL games run the concession stand, and I didn't know if there had been any conversation about that.
Right, that's something we could have a conversation about. Our desire would bring in like food trucks and have a taco night, have a dog night, whatever. We could do different things to promote that event. But again, it's something that we're open for discussion on when it comes to food.
Okay. And then I was more concerned before Commissioner Lavasser asked, so we're just talking about infield turf, not, but just, I'm curious anyway. Turf, is it permeable, or does it create more water runoff and you have to direct that runoff off the field somewhere?
There's a lot of prep. If you notice, I think in the contract, you'll see that the turf's like $126,000 and the ground prep's like $145,000. So the ground prep is the big part of it. So it is permeable. The water will go through it, goes into the ground. The way the soil's prepped is very important.
Okay,
so.
Great. All right, well, this is very exciting.
Thank you.
See what everyone else says.
Yes.
This is pretty exciting. My concern is, this is one of the existing fields, right?
Yes.
Field 3. So does that mean that this Field 3 will be out of commission for this entire summer while you're doing your construction, digging, preparation, all the details that are involved in putting the AstroTurf in? So
Yeah, the turfing company, they're real busy in the summertime. So we're picking a great time to turf this thing. It wouldn't be in August, September, October, in that range.
Okay.
It'd be ground prep, throw the turf down, done. And we would do it after ROSL season, and as long as there's no conflict with what's happening with the Parks and Recreation Department. So there'd be nothing going on this summer.
Oh, okay, that was my concern.
Sure.
The conflict with the current Sand League.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So I just had a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Great presentation. What do you think, what your draw is going to be? Moving here attendance-wise, just thinking of.
A lot more than 15 a game.
A lot more than 15?
No, you know what? If we market it well, number one, we're very well known in the community from Oakland County. With all the people we deal with all our different players, we've got several Royal Oak kids in our program right now. Especially with time, if we can get this thing done in this fall, we've got the whole year to really introduce it to the general public. So we hoped, I don't know what we're going to get, 50, 100, 200. Okay. What is the Lima local? They're a big, Lima, Ohio is a big attendance getter down in, what are they usually?
They're not as big a town as you guys are. They do draw between 500 and 1,000.
Okay.
So
That's really good.
I'm looking here, to be honest with you, I drove around the town. I just kind of looked around and saw how things were. I could see you pulling 500 a night pretty easily.
Okay.
If marketed well and sold well.
That's a good number. I think I don't want to say it's a concern, but you always want to make sure you have traffic management. And we pull events at Memorial Park, art fairs and everything else that far exceed that amount. So, it's a comfortable number.
There looked like a large parking lot across
Yeah,
the street.
right across the street. Yep, right in front of the Royal Oak Golf Center. Yep. So that's good. Hopefully we rally 500 with a little luck, right?
Yeah, and exactly.
We did it.
I did it.
Anything else?
Catch it at first.
I'm the mayor that uses a lot of puns and jokes,
Okay.
leprechaun, things of that nature.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to fit in pot of gold, but I haven't quite got there just yet.
I was going to click my heels when I ran left here, so.
Any other questions for John or for the representatives from the leprechauns?
Commissioner Prush.
Just one question. It's not real clear from the presentation. What would be the first year that you would be actually having games there after all the construction?
We would like to start June 2020.
Okay, so this would be your work year and then starting next.
Right, so in the franchise agreement that we've signed, we have, it's a 5-year agreement. And out of those 5 years, we have an opportunity, what we refer to as going dark. That means we don't play for 1 year. So if this wouldn't go through, then we are either back at Adrian or who knows where we're at. We're crazy. So we want to, this is, are we completely, we would really like to be here is what we'd like to say to you, definitely. So June of 2020 is our hope.
Okay.
Commissioner Dubak.
I'll move for the resolutions contained in the letter.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Dubak. We have a second by Commissioner Macy on the quick draw there. All right, Commissioner Prush.
I think this is the most exciting thing that we've seen in quite some time.
Thank
And I
you.
might be biased because we have a 13-year-old grandson who plays baseball. And and this is grandma bragging, he's pretty good. I don't know necessarily that he will ever play to the level to play here in this type of league. But it's fun watching baseball games. Growing up, that's not something, not having brothers that played that kind of stuff. I wasn't a baseball person, but I've become one now that we've been watching grandson John. And we will continue to watch him as soon as his collarbone heals. But I think having you just walk in our door and say, we would love to do this for you is just the most extraordinary thing. So we wish you all the best. I'm sure this will be approved tonight, and we can't wait to go to games.
Well, we were excited to do that. I sat in my dad was my high school baseball coach, and I sat in a classroom looking out the baseball field, waiting for the bell to ring, and baseball was my motivation for an education. And we carried that as our mission statement for our organization, provide the motivation for an education. And that's, because a lot of these guys aren't going to grow up and be pros, but, if we can get that motivation, get them educated, nobody can take that education away from them. So, great, thank you.
Commissioner Douglas.
I just want to say, this is just one more example of why people love Royal Oak, why it's such a great city. When an organization like yours, draws a finger around the map and says Royal Oak is the best place for us to be, and it is the best place for you to be. And I just think this speaks to the quality of our community, of our recreation programs, of our downtown, as you mentioned, because people are going to come to these games, they're going to want to go out to dinner. After the games, they're going to want a dog, a beer, some wings, and we've got what those visitors will need.
I agree.
So thank you for the vote of confidence in our city,
bet.
and go green.
Yep, go in more ways than one. Yes, thank you.
All right, any other comments? Commissioner Dubak.
Just say, thanks for bringing this to us. Excited to have another family-friendly option on weekends.
Awesome.
And lift up, more baseball in the community. I know there's some fierce competition between ROFC and the Sandlot League. My kids are torn between soccer and baseball year after year, but
I just wonder, is soccer a sport because you can't use your hands?
Shade on
Like
the
I
soccer
said.
people.
Okay.
the ROFC.
I withdraw that statement.
They've been mobilized. Watch out.
No, I think this is going to be an awesome partnership. It's going to
Thank
be
you.
great for our community, and I think you're going to have great success here.
Thank you. We're excited.
Yeah, I'll just add, I'm excited. I got a 5-year-old that plays t-ball, and it's very enjoyable watching him. However, I suspect we'll have more enjoyment watching this collegiate league, the Royal Oak Leprechauns. So another testament, just like Commissioner Douglas said, and Commissioner Dubak and Commissioner Prush, another family-oriented activity. This community, we get a lot of talk about our downtown, but we have amazing recreational programming here from the Royal Oak Sandlot League to the Royal Oak Football Club, and this is just another testament to our family-oriented, opportunities here in the city, which is why we're attracting families and baseball leagues like yourself.
You got it. I agree. Thank you.
All right. Without any further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes.
Outstanding. Thank you very much.
Agreed. Thank you,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
John.
Thank you. Thank you, John. All right. All right, so we have award of a contract for the construction of Normandy Oaks Park.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Attached is the bid tab for the results for the construction of Normandy Oaks. Bids came in a little higher than anticipated, but we're still within budget. It'll be a very tight budget, but England Civil Construction is very skilled at doing this kind of work. This is sort of their sweet spot. Also, as attached is the analysis of the bid done by Norwalk and Frost as part of their construction management fee. So we're asking you to approve, direct staff to issue the purchase order and contracts for the bid price amount tonight.
Questions for Mr. Rassel? Oh, Commissioner Lavasser.
Just to be clear, this is basically, they would serve as a general contractor, not a construction manager. All right.
Norwalk and Frost is the construction manager. Anglin is the general contractor.
Right. So basically, we wouldn't expect there to be other subcontracts that we're going to be.
Anglin will have subcontractors working for them.
Understood. I'm just trying to get a sense whether this is basically all-inclusive or if there's some other things that we may need to see at some point.
No, you should not.
Thank you.
There's a contract amendment later on, but other than that, you should not see anything else coming back. We may be coming back with a change order if we incorporate the things that were approved as part of the Oakland County agreement, because they were not part of this bid.
Thank you.
Commissioner Douglas.
Yeah, we had a discussion or public comment about milkweed, and I do see the value of milkweed is promoting monarch butterfly habitat. Mr. Muller made a point that there's a milkweed garden or butterfly garden at the community center, and there's milkweed in my yard. Is there flexibility in the program at this point to make that sort of micro decision about what gets planted?
Yes, ma'am, I do believe there is time to do that. We had not gotten to the point of discussing the seed mix for the nature area.
Okay, so I would just ask that you
Sure.
take that to heart.
Commissioner Perush.
I'll move approval of this resolution awarding the contract.
Motion by Commissioner Perush. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Douglas. Discussion.
Yay.
Commissioner Dubak.
Yeah, yay. That's basically what I was going to say. There's been some, talk about like, holy crap, how is this taking so long? And just want to remind folks, it has been a long road. It took, a year for us to get the bids out to sell the property, and then a year almost to lock down that contract, then a year to get the public input, and now, and then, design the park, and finally now we're here. We're ready to move some dirt around and get this park up and running, so yay.
Yay.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. All right. Can't wait to see those shovels in the ground.
Much winning.
Neither can I.
This brings us to item number 13, which is the award of the contract for netting at Royal Oak Golf Course. Mr. Rassel, I think.
Back in August, the commission directed staff to go out and solicit bid proposals for golf netting at 2 holes at the Royal Oak Golf Course, which we did, and we had a bid opening in February. Also, at the end of February, the city clerk received a petition from other residents of the Fairways condominiums requesting that we not put up the netting for the golf course, which was in response to people showing up at the August meeting requesting that we do put up the netting. So there are 2 sides to the story. We did put out a bid. The bid results are there. We've also talked since that time. I've also talked to the operators of the Royal Oak driving range, who took a look at the property and offered suggestions which were in tune with what Mr. Spatafor said tonight during his public comment, that the issue is probably on 1 hole more balls going through the fence than over the fence. And on hole number 5, the par 3, most people think that the golf balls are going over the current net and not necessarily putting up a net to catch it. They'll be going over the net, and you would have to put the net on an angle, sort of like behind the backstop at a baseball game to catch balls coming out of the sky, which could be a little difficult. It may require putting posts on their property, and putting a net over a swimming pool is not the most aesthetically pleasing thing you can have. So staff recommendation would be just to put up the windscreen on hole 4. We can do the same thing on hole 5 and see what happens.
Questions for Mr. Rassel? I saw Commissioner Lavasser with his hand.
Do you have a sense of the budget for doing the less intrusive measures of trying to prevent balls from getting through?
That's probably $1,200, which we probably, it's costed in netting. It's a couple $100 in netting and labor. It's probably around $1,000.
Commissioner Macy?
I think Joe Spatafore said something about possibly putting in arborvitae, whatever they're called.
Arborvitae, or putting in the evergreens. Yes, now any trees we plant, that's a good long-term solution. They're not going to be 20-foot tall this year.
Right.
So.
But what about that? Could we? What are your thoughts about that?
We can put trees back along there. It's just, once again, planting evergreens along the fence to try and.
Right, it's not immediate.
It's not an immediate thing.
And then both Joe and Mike brought up holes 1 and 2. What's the story with those?
Well, they are along the fairway of 2 holes. They have trees lining that fence line as well, but they do get some complaints about balls going in the backyards along the golf course. Being a bad golfer and playing in courses in Florida where houses line the golf course, if you live along a golf course, an occasional ball does come into the backyard.
I mean, it doesn't happen every hole? Jeez, you must not be playing right.
So.
Any questions down on this end? Commissioner Dubuck?
I want to make sure that when we're spending these dollars, we're doing it in the best interest of public safety, which is the conversation that we were having when we gave this direction, right? Based on very concerned residents who were afraid for their safety. So I don't want to move rashly if this is not the right fix, but what are the other options then? Trees, which will grow in 15 years?
I would suggest that we put up the screening and monitor the program and have people call. We can meet with the board and direct them every time we call and monitor the number of golf balls that come in, because sometimes people tend to exaggerate a problem.
Commissioner Gibbs?
Mayor Fournier, we have 2 residents that may want to be able to speak, if that would be allowable. 2 residents from the condos,
Yeah, well, let's get through all the commissioner comments, and then
Okay.
we'll see if, if we can do that. Commissioner Dubuck?
I definitely want to hear from more residents, but I don't know if it'd be appropriate unless they're representative of like a residents association. Like, I want to hear from like the majority of residents to make sure that we're investing these dollars wisely in a way that the residents want them invested. So unless we've made it known to the entire association that we're going to be taking comment on this issue, I don't know that it's appropriate to hear from just 2 folks who are here
Yeah,
today.
I think my concern is I hear 2 schools of thought. Originally, we had a number of residents come up here and say, put them in, and we said, okay. And then we just got a letter from another set of residents that say, don't put it in, and it seems to be the majority. So I'm really, we're kind of going from Q&A here down into the meat. I'm really confused as to, what the residents actually want, and I kind of agree that I would like to hear more, either if there's an official position, like if they have meeting minutes or something like that, or if we have the opportunity for everyone to come out and, voice their opinion at public comment. That might be a more fair approach for those who may have a different opinion about the topic. Commissioner Perush?
Attached to our information tonight is a letter from the residents who submitted the petition, who said that the board of directors of the Fairways never took a survey of the owners in the building prior to taking this before the city council. So we had individuals who brought it to us before, but that was not an official action on behalf of the association itself. It goes on to say it was brought up at a Fairways board meeting, but many from the building, and there's only one building that's affected by this with 28 condos. Out of the 80 condos in the whole complex, only 28 are in the building, which is potentially in the way of the walls. We therefore are enclosing a survey of the building residents in that particular building taken last week in February 2019. So it seems to me that the association has done some of this work already. You know, they've isolated the building that's in question, the 28 condominiums in that building, and they've enclosed a survey. And they've sent that survey to us, essentially saying, these are the people that would like the netting, these are the people who are opposed to the netting. Right. And if you count those signatures as appropriate and true signatures, then by far the majority of the people who signed that petition do not want the netting. So I think in terms of the public comment or public input that we want from the association, they've already given it to us here. I'm not so sure that we need to have them all troop back down to City Hall to tell us essentially what they just told us in this survey.
So we have a couple options on the table. So I hear staff, and with the support of the golf course manager and with the expertise of the range manager, that, you know, there might be an opportunity to stop a majority of the balls vis-a-vis mesh along the fence, which is a lower cost alternative, to see how that works. We could do nothing, right? No netting, the status quo. We could put the netting in at a sizable expense. We could offer free golf lessons for people, or ban shanks and hooks.
For the mayor.
I mean, I think we have some options in front of us. I think, you know, yes, we do have feedback, and I agree, this is pretty solid feedback from the association. I mean, these are signatures, it looks like they put the effort in. We, you know, of course, you have to assume that everyone was surveyed and all that, but of the 28 people, you know, you can count here and get a pretty close number. But do we still have a public health and safety issue regardless of this, you know, and is it incumbent upon us to address that? And do we address it in a fair and reasonable way? I do understand the burdens where, you know, hey, there are some golf balls that come in here, and that's part of living on a golf course. But if it's dangerous, you know, even though some people might put their life at risk to, you know, preserve their view, maybe, you know, that isn't the most appropriate thing, but I don't know that that's the case either. So I think, you know, there might be a bandwidth here to try something, perhaps try the mesh because it's lower cost and see if that helps with the situation. And then if it doesn't, we can determine to put the netting up, or we just go out with the netting, or we do nothing. So I don't think we can ban shanks and hooks. Commissioner Macy.
I thought of another question for Greg. When this originally came up, there was some issue, some of the netting was there, but had holes in it. Is that still part, are we replacing some?
I'll make sure that's repaired, but we went out and inspected that, and some of it had been repaired.
Okay.
But we will inspect that as part of this golf season.
So
any netting that's in place, we will.
Well, I do have a question now. Do we have a dynamic change with the fact that if we're going to be putting paved,
bounce?
You know, do we have a bounce issue? Does it exasperate the problem, you think, or right there where we plan to do
Well,
the
the
paved
areas
cart
the
paths?
areas that we're talking about where the golf ball's going, there's going to be no cart path.
Okay, so we don't have to necessarily be concerned that it's going to bounce off a cart path and whew.
No.
Okay. Commissioner Dubak.
Yes, I'm just a little confused with the feedback that we're getting, because the original letter that kicked off this conversation said that it was from individuals representing the Fairways Community Association. And so did they send this letter without the approval of their association?
So my understanding is that it was the board who came together, they had these concerns, and they, just like we, without pulling all the residents make decisions up here, they made a decision to seek this out because of concerns that were brought forward without then polling everyone to say, hey, do we want to do this? And then people found out and had a different opinion.
So the board voted, petitioned us on behalf of the association without a go-ahead from the association.
Yes? I guess I don't know.
That sounds about right.
Although the board is legally empowered to act on behalf of the association. I mean, they don't need a vote of the owners to take action.
That we're aware of or not. We don't know what the bylaws are, but.
Yeah.
So, Commissioner Perush.
I make a motion that we direct the staff to install the fence improvements that Mr. Rassel described. And then we monitor the situation for a period of time and bring this issue back if we need to.
A motion by Commissioner Perush. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Lavasser. Discussion. Commissioner Macy, then Commissioner Douglas.
I was just going to ask if we could add on to that, directing the Parks and Rec and Senior Advisory Board to maybe meet with this group. I happen to think that they would be open to that idea, to maybe go here and have an open meeting and then bring us back feedback on what they're hearing from that group.
I could accept that as a friendly amendment to the motion.
Are you making making that amendment?
Yes.
Okay, we have an amendment proposed. Is there a second?
Second that.
Second by Commissioner Gibbs. Discussion on the amendment. With none, I'll call for the vote on the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we have an amendment to the motion. Now we're back to the original motion, which includes the amendment. Further discussion. Commissioner Douglas.
I'm sorry, Mr. Rassel, describe again what alternative you're proposing here.
Along the chain link fence that is currently in place, we are going to put a green screening message
On number 4.
on number 4, and we can do it on number 5 as well, which you see it around tennis courts. It's a wind screen. That's what we will be putting up.
And a lot of the balls are going through the holes in the fence.
Right. And as I look at number 4 here on a map, there is no real danger to life on hole number 4 because there's a parking lot just past the hole. But nevertheless, if we can put up the kind of screening that you describe at a fairly low cost, that would be fine.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Macy?
Well, just slight disagree that there's no danger just because it's a parking lot, because people park and get out of their cars there, so there's still people walking. In fact, you could argue that there's more people coming and going than there are from a house at any given time.
Yeah, but nothing's coming through the holes in that fence with much on
Okay,
it.
I'm just saying, I don't know that parking lot means safe.
Short game being what it is.
Other discussion? With none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Okay. This brings us to 14. Mr. Rassel, you're a busy man tonight. You deserve a cruise after this.
All right.
Award of contract for Royal Oak Golf Course improvements.
Yes. As part of the sale of the Normandy Oaks Golf Course, we made a commitment to invest some of those proceeds into improvements at the Royal Oak Golf Course. Before you use the results of the bid to put cart paths in and redo the main parking lot at the Royal Oak Golf Course.
Questions for Mr. Rassel? Commissioner Macy?
So again, we heard from Mr. Pinsky today, who looked at the scope of work and thought that maybe there was, first of all, that 2 holes weren't covered and that the parking lot was less extensive than they had anticipated it would be in terms of what was being redone.
Well, we did the parking area, and he's concerned about the apron area where the golf carts are at. But where the golf carts are at, so it was not included as part of it. I mean, that's something we can price out and do at a later time. Once again, this is a start. I mean, if things go well and we get all sorts of grants for Normandy Oaks, we can invest in that. So we're not expending all the proceeds from there. We can invest more at the golf course. But the number one priority for the golf course is to get the cart paths in, because that's revenue for them.
in the 2 holes of the golf course that aren't covered?
I believe that was part of the design of the golf course because that they weren't necessarily needed in that area. One's a straight out. Both of those are straight out paths that are not as mucky.
Okay. And then, am I correct that there were $700,000 set aside for improvements to the Royal Oak Golf Course?
No, there was
okay.
never a commitment as far as a dollar amount.
Oh.
I can address that part of it. No, Greg's right. The commission has never dedicated a particular amount. I kind of reserved a certain amount of money until we knew what this was really going to be. Actual sale of Normandy Oaks generated $3.8 million. About $100,000 was spent on costs of the sale. So after the golf course, we're going to have a little bit more to go back into Normandy than what we've already committed.
So I guess that's my memory too, and again, I'm not saying that this is, obviously it's not written in stone anywhere, but my understanding was that there was about 3 million was gonna go to Normandy Oaks, and then that 0.7 was gonna go to the golf course, and I'm just saying, I think that's the general understanding, maybe I'm wrong, but, people who come to Parks and Rec and are interested in the golf course seem to think that there's gonna, that was the money they had to spend. Just put it out there.
I think I remember the discussion. We definitely talked about cart paths and redoing the parking lot, for sure. And I don't think we really earmarked how much that would cost, I mean, at a high levels, but I remember it more as the things that needed to be done, not necessarily the amount.
I remember $250,000. I mean, I remember like 250,000-ish.
Okay.
Not 700 at all.
Okay.
All right. Any more questions for Mr. Rassel? Resolution in front of us.
Do you need a motion?
Usually that's how this works.
I couldn't remember. I move approval of the resolution.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Douglas. We have a second by Commissioner Macy. Discussion. All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, we got some improvements to the golf course. This brings us to item number 15, approval of amendment to Normandy Oaks Construction Management Services Contract.
As part of the bid for the Normandy Oaks construction contract, we did not, I did not include these services as part of the bid. These services are required to be done. I chose to get a contract amendment with our construction management company included in that because I felt it would be better as a watchdog thing to have our construction manager take on this task than the general contractor. Because as you look at what these tasks are, construction layout, materials testing, construction ad builds, I felt it was more advantageous to have someone from working for us as the construction manager to take on those tasks versus the general contractor who's more attuned to the bottom line.
Mr. Rassel, is it fair to say, look, the work's got to get done. We got to pay for the work. It's just a matter of who we pay, whether
That's
it's a general
correct.
contractor or somebody else in your scenario here to work as a watchdog.
That's correct.
Okay. So it's not extra, it's just shifting.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Douglas.
I'll move approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Douglas, second by Commissioner Macy. Discussion? With none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Have a
thank you,
great
Mr.
evening.
Rassel.
Mr. Rassel.
This brings us to item number 16, which is the Royal Oak Civic Foundation, which consists of 2 parts, which is the approval of the initial corporate resolutions, as well as the approval of ordinance to repeal Chapter 26 of the Royal Oak Opportunity to Serve, otherwise known as the Roots Organization, second reading. Who's on? Not you?
Actually, Mayor Fournier,
Mr. Gillum?
I can lead off on this anyway. This is another project that's been in the works for some time. This is an issue that Mark Liss from my office and staff in the manager's office have been working on for approximately 3 years. I think everybody is very happy and relieved to be able to bring this item to the commission, hopefully for formal approval tonight. What you have in front of you is a couple of corporate resolutions. These were both prepared by outside counsel from the Kitch Law Firm that have been working with staff throughout the process. And these are resolutions and documents that have gone through a number of different revisions over the course of this couple-year period. The documents would establish the Royal Oak Civic Foundation, which would be a eventually, once recognized by the IRS, once the appropriate papers are filed, a nonprofit under Section 501c3 of the Internal Revenue Code. And what's significant about this is some of the earlier comments that were made by Mr. McGannon and others during comment was that, number one, it would clarify that contributions that residents or individuals made to the foundation would be tax deductible. But probably more significantly than that, in establishing the 501c3, this would allow other entities and organizations, foundations, that are limited in their ability to make donations and contributions, to make those donations and contributions to established 501c3s. And we're talking about potentially significant amounts of grants and donations, grant applications. As Commissioner Douglas had indicated before, nothing against the donations that we get from individuals, but in the big scheme of things, we're talking about significant amounts of money and philanthropy that would be able to do a lot of good things here in the city. Now, in terms of the structure of the organization, the documents that you have in front of you, a couple of them involve actions that would be taken by Mr. Liss because of his involvement in the process. He's been designated as the incorporator, if you were, and that's a role that he takes on pursuant to the formation of the 501c3. Initially, he would be making the appointment of initial board of trustees to the 501c3. And in terms of, and then the second would be a written consent by the city of Royal Oak to the creation of the foundation and the filing of the documents with the IRS to formally establish the 501c3. So Mr. Liss is really, he's a messenger in this particular case. He's got certain things that he needs to carry out, but above and beyond that, he is not directly involved in the operation of the foundation, either on behalf of the city or on behalf of the board of directors themselves. The foundation itself, as I've indicated, would be a nonprofit. The city of Royal Oak, that is through the city commission, would be the sole corporate member of the 501c3. If this was a for-profit entity, I think you could say that the city of Royal Oak would be the sole shareholder in the corporation. But because we're talking about a nonprofit, it's not a shareholder in the traditional sense. But the city of Royal Oak would be the sole corporate member. And as the sole corporate member, the city of Royal Oak, through the city commission, has specific authority and responsibilities under the corporate documents. On the other hand, there is the board of trustees, which again, one of these resolutions would form the initial board. That's a group that, with the assistance of the executive director as proposed, Ms. Lyons-Bricker, would be responsible more for the day-to-day operations of the 501c3. In terms of the types of things that those two groups would be responsible for, the city, again, as the sole corporate member, is responsible for the appointment of members of the board of trustees, is responsible for any amendments to the articles of incorporation, is responsible for, if necessary, removing any of the board of trustees, and eventually, if the time ever came that the 501c3 had outlived its usefulness, it would be the city that would be making a decision to potentially dissolve the 501c3. The Board of Trustees, on the other hand, as I indicated, would be more responsible for day-to-day type operations. Within the board members that are appointed and approved by the City Commission, the board would determine what their specific appointments were going to be within the board. So for example, who's going to be the chairperson, who's going to be the vice chairperson, who's going to be the treasurer, and so on, who's going to be assigned to the various subcommittees, because the subcommittees have different responsibilities under the Articles of Incorporation and bylaws. The board would have the authority to amend the bylaws, its bylaws, not the Articles of Incorporation, but the board could amend its own bylaws. So the city maintains oversight over the 501c3, but it's the board, again, that actually manages on a day-to-day basis with input from the staff through Ms. Lyons-Bricker. So the resolutions that you have in front of you for approval, that we would recommend approval of, first is the appointment of the initial Board of Trustees by the sole incorporator, that is pursuant to the corporate documents, Mr. Liss. And second, the approval of the written consent of the sole corporate member of the Civic Foundation, that is the approval of the city to the establishment of the 501c3 by Mr. Liss as the sole incorporator, and then also the approval of the proposed Articles of Incorporation and at least initially the bylaws. And then the third resolution would be basically a cleanup, would be authorizing the city attorney's office to take any other steps that are necessary to incorporate the Royal Oak Civic Foundation under IRS Code Section 501c3. So that would include executing the documents, getting them filed, paying any fees, things like that, to actually establish the foundation, get it up and running. The Articles of Incorporation and the bylaws provide for a minimum of 3 directors. What's been presented in terms of these documents is the appointment of 4 directors, the majority of whom, as I understand, were very actively involved in the Roots Foundation before. So the transition should be fairly easy in that sense. In the future, again, it would be the City Commission that would appoint additional trustees as to exactly what their roles and responsibilities would be. That would be sorted out by the board at its level. So again, we would recommend the approval of the 3 resolutions contained in our commission letter dated March 19th. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer.
Questions for Mr. Gillum? Commissioner Lavasser.
I note that under what we have here today, the foundation would be very autonomous. Trustees would serve, could only be removed for cause, and that's only if the recommendation comes from the other trustees themselves, if I'm reading it correct. The bylaws, they could amend those bylaws. We would not be able to. I'm wondering what the mindset was, why, remove the city as the owner of the entity, remove our ability to have a greater influence on it.
Well, I think the city is still going to have a significant amount of influence. I mean, the board does have a fair amount of autonomy, but at the same time, the board still has to function within the scope of the authority that's set forth within the Articles of Incorporation. Because again, the Articles of Incorporation control. The bylaws really are established and adopted pursuant to the articles. If there was ever any conflict between what was going to be in the bylaws and what was in the Articles of Incorporation, the Articles of Incorporation would control.
Mr. Johnson.
Let me add to that, because when we did the first draft, we initially had the city commission maintaining much more control than what we have now. And that's largely because we came to the conclusion that for this to be successful and credible, it needs to have a great deal of autonomy from the city commission and the city administration.
Other questions? Oh, Commissioner Perush.
If you look at Section 7 of the articles, you'll understand that the powers that are reserved to the member, which is the city of Royal Oak, and are not given to the individual trustees of the corporation. The Michigan Nonprofit Act says that nonprofit corporations in Michigan can either be member nonprofit organizations, which is what this one will be, or director nonprofit corporations. An example of a director nonprofit corporation in the city is the Royal Oak Schools Foundation. That is a director organization, nonprofit organization, and those directors, and I believe in that foundation there are 9 directors, have a great deal more autonomy and authority over what they do and what they don't do than this organization will have. This one will have much more city oversight and city control over how the organization operates. So I think it's a good balance between the almost complete independence the Royal Oak Schools Foundation operates, and they're very comfortable with that, and they're an excellent organization, and they do wonderful things. But on the other hand, you want to strike a balance between control and making sure they don't go off the rails, and the way this is set up, those safeguards are built into the Articles of Incorporation. But on the other hand, give the board, the Board of Trustees, the autonomy to make the decisions that they want to make without being influenced with politics and all that other kind of stuff, where if it is too much of a city-controlled operation, it would turn into. So I think the way this is set up, it's a balance between, and it's a good balance between enough autonomy so that the trustees can do the type of work that they want to do, but on the other hand, there are enough controls within the articles that if the city thinks that they really are doing inappropriate things, they can step in and take some control back. So no form of organization is perfect, but I think this is a good balance between those two objectives that we want to pursue when we create this.
Any other questions, thoughts? Commissioner Lavasser.
I'm going to move on to the roots aspect, if I may, because that is part of what is presented to us tonight. The first question is whether there's some undispersed funds from roots, and if so, if we adopt the ordinance of repeal, what becomes of those funds?
I'm going to look to Mr. Johnson to answer that question.
Almost all of the assets that we account for under roots are assets that were actually raised by the individual organizations. There is very little that was raised by Roots as the parent organization. I'm not even sure if it's fair to call it the parent organization, but Roots itself is a general fundraising. There were some attempts to do so, and none of them were very successful. I think largely because it was not a true 501c3, even though we almost always referred to it as the Roots Foundation, or prior to the name change, the Acorn Foundation. It was never actually set up legally as a foundation, and it never had 501c3 status, though contributions to Roots would have been technically contributions to the city of Royal Oak, and such contributions are tax deductible. In spite of that, a lot of people don't want to contribute to a city, and organizational entities often absolutely insist it be a 501c3, not any other type of body that qualifies under the federal tax code. The money that belonged to the individual organizations will continue to be accounted for as belonging to the individual organizations. The little bit, and I don't have a number offhand, but I doubt very much that it's even $1,000 that's been raised by the Roots overall, would probably end up going to the new organization, which will continue to support the same organizations underneath it.
So we do have a Roots account, so to speak, but it's nominal, it's less than $1,000 right now?
That's off the top of my head. I think that would probably be correct, because I can't think of hardly anything that's ever been done that was successful as a fundraiser that wasn't specifically earmarked for particular organizations. Even when we did, we had a attempt to do a water bill thing that was, we wrote about today, was pretty unsuccessful. But people, even in that, had the opportunity to direct that to a particular organization rather than it just being in general.
Commissioner Macy.
So how are the organizations going to get the money back? You said it's going to continue to be owned by them, but how do they, are you just going to write them a check or?
Well, most of those organizations, there's only one that is not actually a city function. You know, the animal shelter belongs to the city. The library belongs to the city. The only organization that's under the Roots umbrella at all that is not part of the city is the Nature Society.
Okay, so I understood what you said to Commissioner Lavasser to be that if the animal shelter had $2,000 that they had raised directed to them that was in this Roots, I thought it was gonna, you were saying it was gonna stay with the animal shelter, but what does that mean? Like
Yes,
how?
it will stay in an account that's designated for the animal shelter's use, just as it has been.
And how will they request the money? Because in the past, they
Same
would
as
request it
always.
from Roots.
Same, never through the board. Basically, as far as the individual organizations have been concerned, Roots has existed more as an accounting entity than anything else.
I just know from my experience on the library board and from hearing about the Mark Twain Dog Park people that they've had a lot of trouble getting their money out of Roots. And so I'm wondering now if there's gonna be some easier mechanism, and I'm not quite following it, but.
Nobody who's actually submitted a request properly has ever had any trouble getting money out of Roots.
Okay.
Other questions? Commissioner Perush.
I'll move approval of these 3 resolutions.
A motion by Commissioner Perush. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Dubak. Discussion? Commissioner Douglas?
Yes, this is something that I've been passionate about since I first was appointed to the Roots Foundation Group as the City Commission representative. I feel like there is so many people love Royal Oak, people who have lived here all of their lives and want to contribute to the city and its betterment. And they all give very generously to the other independent nonprofits that we have around town without question. But still, there are people, I think, who want to support the city through any fundraising events or annual giving we may have, but also potentially through planned giving. People who maybe don't have heirs or want to leave part of their estate to the betterment of the city. And that's going to be something that the Board of Directors focuses on as they go forward. But I will just let you commissioners know that while we understand that part of our role is to support those constituent groups, the Animal Shelter, the Nature Society, those that have always been part of the Roots Fund. We also have the potential to support other nonprofit or worthy endeavors as well. And so just fair warning, we will be coming back to the City Commission because the City Commission is our sole member, and really our top level guidance and direction should come from the city. So you'll be hearing back from the Board of Directors fairly soon, asking you for your input into our general direction, after which the Board of Directors will craft a more specific mission and action plan.
Any other discussion? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right. Now that necessitates us to act on Part B of this agenda topic, which is the approval of ordinance to repeal Chapter 26, Royal Oak Opportunity to Serve, second reading. Mr. Gillum.
Well, as the mayor has indicated, with the establishment of the Civic Foundation, the Roots Foundation is established by ordinance, has in some senses outlived its usefulness. So we had taken first reading of an ordinance to repeal Chapter 26 of the code back in June of 2017, which again is an indication how long this has been in the works. But now, again, it would be the appropriate time to approve the repeal of Chapter 26 on second reading and let the Civic Foundation move forward.
Questions for Mr. Gillum? Commissioner Douglas.
I'll move the resolution.
Motion by Commissioner Douglas, second by Commissioner Macy. Further discussion? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, that brings us to number 17 on tonight's agenda, which is the approval of contract for Indigent Defense Managed Assigned Council Coordinator. James.
Good evening. So, In December, the city received its first payment to help us with implementing the standards for providing indigent defense as put together by the Michigan Indigent Defense Commission. Since that time, we started implementing some of the statewide standards, most notably counsel at first appearance. The next major step for us is to bring somebody on to handle the administration of completing this program. And this is going to be the managed assigned counsel coordinator. So this contracted person is going to be responsible for scheduling attorneys to be there for arraignments, providing the assignment of cases, and also ensuring that the attorneys are meeting the standards as set out. So in February, we put out an RFP to solicit proposals. After the posting had closed, we received only 2 proposals that were then reviewed by myself, the city attorney, the court administrator, and the purchasing agent, and we all came unanimously to the same conclusion that based on the proposal and the pricing, that we would recommend John Angot to be awarded the contract. A copy was provided in your packet of the proposed contract, and we are recommending approval tonight.
Questions for James? Commissioner Macy.
I was wondering, maybe it's required and I don't know, but I'm asking why we're contracting this out instead of just hiring someone for the court to do this ourselves.
The idea was cost efficiency. It is something, especially because it is it's funded through the state, and the state at any time through the legislative process could decide not to fund the programming, at which point we wouldn't be able to maintain that position.
That's all.
Any other questions? Commissioner Perush?
I'll move approval of this recommendation.
A motion by Commissioner Perush, second by Commissioner Dubak. Discussion? All right, with none, I'll call. Commissioner Gibbs?
I just have one question. Sorry, I should have said it before Commissioner Perush moved. Where is the bid from the second person who submitted?
We have it on file. It was nowhere near as competitive.
Okay. What does that mean?
The pricing was higher, and the quality of the proposal wasn't even near.
Okay.
The narrative of the proposal, the description of the services to provide.
Okay, it would have, in my opinion, it would be easier if we had at least a little blurb about who the other bidder was and the cost and what they may have been missing or what qualities they could bring to the table as we have the full one for the legal Google list. Just a comment, anyway.
Commissioner Dubak.
I think just to that point, my understanding, as Mr. Kazan put it, was that the other proposal is not one that they would have recommended for consideration by this commission. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
So it's not that there were 2 qualified proposals that they thought should be considered by this commission. There was only one that they thought was worthy of consideration. And this is also different than when we're considering a public works contract as a professional services contract, and therefore kind of has a different process. Is that right?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gillen.
Commissioner Gibbs, I can weigh in a little bit because I was one of the ones that reviewed the 2 proposals, and I do have a copy. I'd be happy to share it with you if you want to see it.
That'd be great if you want to email it to me. I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
But just generally, I would indicate that the other proposal came from a consortium of 5 to 6 attorneys.
Okay.
And I think any one of them would be qualified to serve as one of the attorneys doing the assigned work. But again, my personal opinion, the proposal was lacking in terms of how that group would be able to supervise and and fulfill the responsibilities under the act. And the other comment I would make too, that from a cost perspective, their proposal was nearly 3 times as much
Okay.
as the one for Mr. Anga.
Okay, I would agree that it was, okay, thank you.
Without any further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Brings us to item number 18. Thank you, Jim. Approval of tentative agreements. Mr. Gillum.
Mayor and city commissioners, let's jump back for a second to January of this year. You'll recall that the city commission approved one-year extensions of collective bargaining agreements with 2 of the groups in the police department, with the Police Command Officers Association and the Royal Oak Detectives. And those one-year extensions provided for that one-year period, a 2.5% wage increase. And in addition, a reduction in the amount of employee contributions for premium sharing for healthcare from 80%, I'm sorry, from 20% to 10%. That is, to going from the 80% city, 20% employee, to 90% city, 10% employee in terms of the healthcare costing. And that would have, those changes to the healthcare premiums would be effective with the next benefit year, which starts April, so it starts next month. So what the city's bargaining team is bringing forward tonight is 5 other tentative agreements that follow the same basic pattern in terms of the 2.5% wage increase for the 1920 fiscal year, and a reduction in the amount of the employee contributions to healthcare costs from the current 20% down to 10%. There are some small wrinkles with the tentative agreements for the different groups, but I can walk through those one at a time. The first agreement that I would like to address with you is the agreement with the Foreman and Supervisors Association out at the DPS. Again, the proposal, the tentative agreement with the supervisors is for a one-year extension on the existing contract, so that is through from July 1 of this year to June 30th of next year, 2020. A 2.5% across-the-board wage increase, the reduction in employee contributions for healthcare costs from 20% to 10%, effective for the plan year beginning April of this year. In addition, per the agreement, with the city manager's approval and at the city manager's discretion, city funds could be used for de minimis expenses on employee appreciation. That language in the tentative agreement is to deal with guidelines that have been set forth by the Michigan Department of Treasury for lawful and unlawful expenditures. As a general rule, the state has said that employee appreciation is not a permitted expenditure of public funds. However, there is an exception for de minimis expenses that are allowed pursuant to a collective bargaining agreement. And de minimis, we're not talking about huge amounts of money here, but we're talking about some of the employee appreciation efforts that the city manager's office has been spearheading. Probably things as simple as to the scooters that are passed out, to, I know Mr. Johnson could probably, yeah, the employee breakfast, the holiday luncheon over at the farmer's market at the end of the year, things like that. So all other terms and conditions of the existing contract with the foreman and supervisors would carry forward. So we would recommend approval of the tentative agreement with the Foreman and Supervisors Association dated March 20th of 2019.
We have recommendation by Mr. Gillum. Anyone want to make a motion? Commissioner Douglas.
I move approval of the, I'm sorry, which?
Foreman and Supervisors. Foreman and Supervisors.
Foreman and Supervisors.
Okay, motion, we have a second by Commissioner Macy. Discussion? Commissioner Dubak?
I think this is a fair agreement. Once again, we've worked in good faith with our staff to treat them fairly and respect their work, and they've recognized the city circumstances. So I think it's a good deal for everyone involved.
Yeah, I'll just add for all of our bargaining units, I want to thank them for working in good faith with us and for the hard work they do day in and day out to keep this community the amazing place that it is, and, you know, eager to, you know, move forward, so. All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in-
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, Commissioner Lavasser.
Thank you. I will support this. I do have some concerns. I previously expressed concerns over moving a 20% copay on premiums for health insurance to a 10%. But given that the commission has made that the policy essentially of the city, I do believe it's appropriate that we have consistency across the board with the employees. I also would like to see proposed contracts made available to members of the public through the agenda process in advance. And my understanding is that we're going to be striving to do that in the future. This is a one-year contract as opposed to a long-term contract. So I do think we'll have some opportunities moving forward in the future to have a little bit more transparency on these. So I will support this.
Anybody else? All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, Mr. Gill, next one.
The next agreement is with the Professional and Technical Employees Association. Again, following the pattern, a one-year extension, a 2.5% across the board wage increase for the members of the group, the reduction in employee contributions for health care costs, discretionary funds, de minimis expenses for employee appreciation. The one thing that's different about this group from the foremen and supervisors, this is one of the City Hall employee groups, as we've called them internally. Going back several years, as part of the concessions that the city had asked for and obtained from the City Hall groups, City Hall has been closed on New Year's Eve day, but it's not been recognized as part of the concessions as a paid holiday. Used to be a paid holiday, but the building would close, people wouldn't work, but in order to be able to take the day off, people had to burn some of their time. So the agreement for the Professional and Technical Employees Association, along with the agreements for the other City Hall groups that I'll be talking about, would reinstate New Year's Eve as a paid holiday. So we would be recommending approval of the tentative agreement with the Professional and Technical Employees dated March 21st of 2019.
Questions for Mr. Gillum? Commissioner Douglas.
Move approval?
A motion by Commissioner Douglas, second by Commissioner Dubak. Discussion? All right, with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
Next is a tentative agreement with the Department Head and Deputy Department Head Association. The terms of this tentative agreement exactly mirror the terms of the Professional and Technical Employees Association. That is, they include the reinstatement of New Year's Eve as a paid holiday. This is one of the City Hall groups. So we would be recommending approval of the tentative agreement with the Deputy Department Head Association dated March 21st of 2019.
Questions for Mr. Gillum? Commissioner Prush.
Mr. Gillum, in this particular employee group, do you know about how many members there are? Just off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, there's maybe 12 to 15.
Okay, that's what I was guessing as well.
Might even be a little bit higher, but.
Yeah, for people who don't understand how small our workforce here is in City Hall, when we go through these individual agreements one by one, you keep thinking, oh, that's 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, 400 people that are impacted by these agreements. People need to understand that for most of these bargaining units, we're talking about a dozen people. There's less than 100 people that work in City Hall completely. So the majority of our workforce obviously are public safety, police and fire. The next largest group is DPW. So I don't want anyone to get the impression that when we're talking about these agreements that each one individually means another 100 people that are on our workforce. That's not the case. We have a very small workforce, and in the case of this particular agreement, we're talking about 12, maybe 13, 14 people. So I just want to make that clear for people who don't understand the small size of our overall workforce.
Is there a motion on the table for this one? Commissioner Macy.
Move approval.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Macy, second by Commissioner Douglas. Any discussion? With none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Sorry, I misunderstood what you were asking. Oh, that's all right then. All right, Mr. Gillum, we got
A couple more to go. Next is the proposed tentative agreement with the Service Employees International Union, or SEIU. These are the rank and file out at the Department of Public Services. Again, following the same basic pattern. This is a one-year extension with a 2.5% across-the-board wage increase, reduction in employee contributions for healthcare costs from 20% to 10%. There is one tweak in this that isn't really in any other agreement. In the tentative agreement, it's a reference to a couple sections in Article 11 of the contract. This has to do with the amount of money that the employees in this group are paid for their meals if they're held over on overtime to work. And the language that's in there is pretty old, and I think the amount that they're paid right now, if they're held over, is like $5 or $6 a meal. And what the city would be agreeing to would be to increase that amount to $10 a meal. So it's a minimal increase, but it's significant for them when they're working hard. So, and then in addition, this also includes the language regarding de minimis expenses for employee appreciation. So we would recommend approval of the tentative agreement with SEIU dated March 22nd of 2019.
questions for Mr. Gillum. Commissioner Dubak.
Move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Dubak, second by Commissioner Macy. Discussion. All right, with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. All right, that brings us to TPOAM.
And the last of the tentative agreements, this is one that was actually approved probably about 5:30 this afternoon. So, but again, this follows the model for the city hall groups, if you will. TPOAM, the agreement would be for a one-year extension through June 30th of 2020, a 2.5% across-the-board wage increase, the reduction in healthcare contributions from 20% to 10%, the reinstatement of New Year's Eve as a paid holiday, and authorization for de minimis expenses for employee appreciation. So we would recommend approval of this tentative agreement with TPOAM, which was dated March 18th of 2019.
Questions for Mr. Gillum? Commissioner Macy.
So, sorry, Mr. Gillum, my brain is fuzzy. I can't remember if you said this out here already or just to us in closed session, but just to be clear, this is now making all of the unions have New Year's Eve be a paid holiday, correct? Like it's not the ones that's not in the contract modification here, it's already in their contract, except for SEIU, which I understand has their own specific holidays laid out.
Yeah, for all the city hall groups, for ProTech, for the department heads, and for TPOAM, New Year's Eve would be reinstated as a paid holiday. That's correct.
But for the ones that didn't have it, my understanding was the ones that it's not in this tentative agreement, it's because it's already in the contract, except for SEIU, which has a specific laid out holidays differently.
Well, the only other groups really in question are SEIU and the DPS foreman, and because of the nature of the work that they do and the holidays that they keep and their day off schedule, they never had New Year's Eve as a paid holiday anyway.
Oh, okay.
So,
Water mains break on any given time, and
got to plow snow.
Police work 24/7.
Fires,
Same with fire.
It's like a different answer than I got in there, but,
except leap year.
okay. I got it. So they have different holidays that they've bargained for.
That's correct.
Yes, and
Yeah.
but they've got fewer holidays, but they've got more. Sometimes we call them floating holidays, or just other time off.
But they never gave up New Year's Eve is a
Right,
paid
right,
holiday
right,
before.
right.
So, yeah.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Douglas?
Approval?
Motion by Commissioner Douglas, second by Commissioner Macy. Discussion? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. I know we have item 19, but I think even though we added it to the agenda, it's probably more appropriate to put the letter of agreement with firefighters in at this point, since we're germane to the topic.
That's correct. And Mayor and Commissioners, what you have before you is a proposed letter of agreement with the Firefighters Association that would extend the same reduction in premium sharing, the 20% to 10%, effective with the plan year beginning in April, that has been given to all the other employee groups. The firefighters are currently under contract through the end of June of next year. They're the one group that had that additional year on their existing contract. So from the city's perspective, we felt it was only fair to go ahead and offer to them the same reduction in the premium sharing on healthcare that all the other groups were going to be offered, effective as of the plan year beginning April, beginning next month. So that was offered to the firefighters. The firefighters agreed. We would recommend approval of the letter of agreement regarding the reduction in employee contributions to healthcare costs.
Questions for Mr. Gillum? I think this is the right thing to do. Entertain a motion. Commissioner Dubak.
For approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dubak, second by Commissioner Douglas. Discussion on the topic? On the motion? None? Okay. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, that brings us to the approval of Executive Department Heads Administrative Rule Changes 2018 to 2019.
And last but certainly not least, we have the executive department heads. They are not actually an organized group. The terms and conditions of their employment are determined based upon administrative rules that are essentially dictated by the city commission. However, again, in the sense of fairness and consistent with how we've dealt with the executive department heads in the past, we had offered to them the same changes to the contract that had been offered to the other city hall groups. So again, the same changes that were offered to ProTech, to TPOAM, and also to the department heads and deputy department heads would be offered or would be part of the administrative rules for the executive department heads. So that includes the additional year of an agreement that is through the end of June of 2020, the 2.5% wage increase across the board, the reduction in healthcare contributions from 20% to 10%, the reinstatement of New Year's Eve as a paid holiday for this group, and then also authorization for the de minimis expenditures for employee appreciation. So we would recommend the city managers recommended amendments to the administrative rules for the executive department heads.
Questions for Mr. Gillum? Commissioner Dubak.
I'll move for approval.
Motion by Commissioner Dubak. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Douglas. Discussion? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, that brings us to another item added to the agenda tonight, which is the direction to authorize settlement negotiations per pending litigation in closed session. Mr. Gillum?
Mayor and City Commissioners, this is a lawsuit that's pending in Oakland County Circuit Court. It's Kelly, K-E-L-L-E-Y, versus the City of Royal Oak. The complaint alleges a trip and fall in the city-owned parking lot in the area of 6th and Main. There have been some preliminary settlement discussions between Insurance Counsel, that is the attorney that's been appointed to represent the city's interests by the MMRMA, the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority. As discussed in closed session tonight, she had requested some direction as to how to proceed with those settlement negotiations. What I'm asking for you tonight is to authorize Attorney Holly Battersby to proceed with those negotiations as discussed in closed session.
Commissioner Lavasser.
I move that we provide the authority as discussed during closed session.
Motion by Commissioner Lavasser, second by Commissioner Macy. Discussion? All right, with none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. All right, that brings us to the end of our agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Dubak.
I'm going to make a motion, but I want to say something real quick.
Okay, you can say something real quick.
Just real quick, the number of really meaty, substantive things on this agenda, I think is important. Oh, were you going to say something?
That's okay. You go
I'm
right
sorry.
ahead.
I just wanted to recognize Mr. Gillum and Mr. Johnson and all the staff for the work that goes into every one of these meetings. And tonight, from contracts for Normandy Oaks to the formation of the C3, this is all really heavy stuff that takes tens, dozens, hundreds of hours to get done. And it seems like it's just getting cranked out in this 4.5-hour meeting. But I just wanted to recognize all the work that's gone into it, that it's quality work, and it is greatly appreciated by this citizen of Royal Oak.
Very nice.
Lovely.
So you can make a motion?
Oh, I'll move to adjourn.
We have a motion by Commissioner Dubak, second by Commissioner Macy. Discussion? Yeah, I was just going to underscore a few things. Honestly, we did say,
Move to call the question.
Second support.
I really think that we accomplished a lot tonight, and just a few takeaways that seem, very relevant and transparent to the public. I mean, we talk about the work that Ms. Leinsberger did related to the Arboretum and some of the pathways we're going to get put there to the tune of, $100,000 in grants. We talk about the Royal Oak Leprechauns, the baseball team coming in, putting in $300,000 into our parks and recreation, improving our recreation. Of course, you can't, we're launching Normandy Oaks now, an amazing community park that's going to benefit the entire city for generations to come. And we even delivered on the improvements to Royal Oak Golf Course, which is another gem in this city that we all cherish and love, and it will get better. We formulated a 501c3 that will further enhance philanthropic activity to the community and to the city. And look, we approved a number of contracts here in good faith with our bargaining units to for the hardworking men and women of the city. So all in all, tonight was a really good night. We did some pretty amazing things, but like Commissioner Dubak said, it's not just us. I mean, we'll take credit for it, but it's all the work from the city manager, city attorney, and all of staff that, help make this city a great place. So just wanted to, before we vote on this, just kind of recognize some of the things that happened tonight. So with that.
Just want to say, so much winning.
So much winning.
Not tired. Not tired.
All right, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. We are adjourned.